So far, 76 drivers have already put down their qualifying times, and now we await to see who of those are worthy enough to make the field for the 4th edition of FTF's Great American Race. I'm Blake McCandless, and I'm joined alongside by our executive producer and director, Joe Allen. And Joe, it is great to finally get back. 2019 is upon us. It's going to be another great season of racing, and yet another year ticks by, and yet it seems that FTF is able to draw a significant crowd because everybody wants to be a part of this spectacular event.
Oh yeah, absolutely, Blake. It's going to be a spectacular event again here this year. A lot of signups that we've saw so far throughout the last couple of weeks while we've been advertising this race, and weren't sure if we were going to be able to actually put on the duels here on the virtual Motorsports Network. But hey, you know what? We're here. We made it. Daytona 500's coming up next weekend on Sunday, and I'm super excited to do it. David Schildhouse will be joining us next weekend on Sunday. Unfortunately, not able to be here with us tonight, but we got a lot of spectacular racing in store for us coming up here this evening.
There's no doubt about that. Again, this field is littered with the best drivers that still remain in this community, and some even come back just to try to be a part of this event. It's sure to be a good one, and we got to thank everybody out there who made this possible, including the administration at FTF and all the fans out there who are supporting this event. And we can't wait to get going tonight, see who's going to be a part of that 500 next weekend. And just so many things have come together to make it such a special event, and we're sure to be tuned into what are hopefully going to be 2 great races tonight. I know running the testing sessions that we had a couple weeks ago, once we were able to get going, it was a lot of great racing, a lot of the drivers complimenting after last night's ZCD, a little bit of a tongue twister there, clash, that it's some of the best racing, super speedway racing that they've been a part of in this sim. So we're definitely looking forward to that and all the things that are in store for us tonight. But so far, I think we need to get a jump start here on the starting lineup because we do have a full field here. It's the Rubbin and Racing Motorsports starting lineup here for the first duel of the night. We'll have to go on over to the sheet, and as they start the race, they'll take 1 lap to make sure they're sorted into their correct position. Starting on the front row for the 3rd year in a row is going to be the number 36 of Taylor Morgan's. Again, his 3rd pole. He's starting on the front row in this race, and alongside him is going to be the 58 of Michael Frisch. Next in line is going to be Chris Wetz to the inside of row number 2. And then Justin Malillo on the outside. Row number 3 will be the number 30 of Davey Hazard, a newcomer, along with an old veteran here at FTF in the 005 of David Day. Behind him will be Kyle Riley, followed by Matt Muir. Dante Ricci alongside Travis Roland. Dylan Smith in the 1 car will be starting on the inside of Zach Rogers. Andrew Miller, another newcomer to FTF. He'll be starting alongside a guy that we've been used to on the airwaves here, and Matt Watkins almost won a SRA 711 Truck Series Championship just a little over a year ago. Starting behind him will be Patrick Hernandez, followed by Ryan Naraki. See if we can scroll down here. Dylan Poteet alongside Sean Whitehill, Jimmy Powell, and Jake Poland, again, one of the former champions of this event. Cole Baker will start along the inside of Shane Sides. Go down a little further here. Joey Bailey will be starting on the inside of Tristan Allen. We move further back in the field. Noah Carmichael will be starting on the inside of Kyle Merkel. And then Doug Lockrow and Sean Fay will be starting in the back of this field. We keep going back. Cam Barnes starting on the inside of Alexander Russell, Zach Trostowski alongside Michael Marotta. Again, we keep scrolling back. Again, we'll have a full field here for you tonight. Darren Ingram and Nathan Canny, I think that'll have to be Canny. Phil Parker, Jason Hubbard, and then the last 2 in this field is going to be David Alvarez and John Greed, who will start in duel number 1. And again, happy hour has reset here. A little bit of drivers' meetings going on, a little bit of last-minute preparation for these guys. So, Joe, I actually have to ask you, I have actually not qualified for this event Won a duel last year, but didn't get to run the race because I went down to Daytona for the 500 itself, and the previous year failed to qualify for the event. Actually ran a qualifying lap tonight, and I'm hoping to start and park and get lucky in duel number 2 before we get going to put my car in. But I have to ask you, since you've been a part of this event, what is going through your mind right now sitting on pit road? A lot of these guys, this is their only shot to try to get into this race.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a combination between attrition and putting yourself in position to get yourself locked into the show. Obviously, a lot of these guys are going to have to fall back on owners' points, and that's important, you know. FTF falls back on owners' points for, I believe, the first 5 events in the year when it comes to qualifying, and with 109 drivers signed up, if not more, for the Daytona 500 here, there's a lot of people that are going up for 39 spots, Blake, because the broadcasters take up 3 and you have the server taking up another one. So there's a lot of cars here and not enough real estate for all over 100 entries to actually make it into the event. So a lot of these guys trying to figure out, maybe make some deals and some partnerships with some guys that they may not be familiar with working with to try and get them into the big show. And, you know, Justin said this a little bit earlier with a lot of the social media advertising that we've seen for the event so far, that this is arguably could be one of the biggest NR 2003 events of the 2019 calendar year, and it's going to be broadcasted live right here on the Virtual Motorsports Network. And you know, there's a lot of pride that goes into winning a race that's broadcasted for all your peers and your friends and your family to see. And not to mention, there's a lot of pride in winning a race at a league like FTF, where arguably they have the best competition that's left running in the NR 2003 community, and it's been that way for several years now. So I think a lot of these guys, there's some nervous anxiousness out there, but you know what? It'll be a fun time nonetheless.
Well, there's no doubt about that. I know it took me quite a while. It took me about a year and a half before I finally wound up in victory lane here. It's just a testament to how tough these guys are, how tough it is really not just to race, but to qualify here. Is, again, you're going to run into FTF, you're going to run into a lot of talented guys, and they keep coming back year after year. Guys like Taylor Morgans, who you can almost guarantee that he'll be in the Final Four this season after winning the championship in 2017, or guys like Kevin McAdams, who are 2-time champions here at FTF. And luckily for some of these guys, David Schildhouse, another former champion here, will be joining us in the booth, so don't have to worry about him out on the racetrack. And of course, he's a former winner at Daytona at FTF as well. So you got a mix of a lot of veteran drivers out here, along with some newcomers. A lot of guys coming in from ISRA and a couple other leagues out there that are just really interested in this event and really trying to put together a full-time campaign to try to run at FTF and qualify for what is a very competitive playoff format.
Yeah, absolutely. And be on the lookout for those orange illuminated stripes on the back of some of these cars as we switch the camera angles around. Drivers finishing up last minute happy hour time session out here before we get these things lined up on the grid. But we got, I believe, over 30 entries that are going to be running for that Rookie of the Year campaign this year, and that'll award a trophy and a plaque at the end of the racing year here in 2019 as well. So to kind of go along with what you said there, Blake, we got a lot of new faces to FTF this year, and you know, it's great to see with how old this game is. It just turned 16 years old, I believe, is what we had posted a little bit earlier, a couple weeks ago. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I may very well be wrong. But to see these new faces that continue to come in and populate a league like FTF and all the other leagues that make up NR 2003, from leagues that populate, you know, the Sim Racing Association, and then you have the Independent Sim Racing Association, you have a couple of the other ones that make up the community still. But to see all these guys that are kind of coming around and supporting these different leagues, it's really cool to see that we still have the amount of people that are interested in racing a game this old like it is. So it should be pretty cool. I'm super excited for it, definitely.
Drivers, to your cars.
No doubt about that. And right now we'll see the drivers starting to get on the grid. All right, so getting some word from race control, and we'll go ahead and remind you guys of the same thing. This first lap around the racetrack will not be a competitive lap. Again, these guys have to take a lap to make sure they're in the correct order for the start of this race. So you'll see on your screen that 61 laps will make up this event. We'll actually be running 60. It's just the first lap will actually be lap 2 instead of lap 1. So a little bit of a correction there, but Again, the Rubbin and Racing Motorsports starting lineup given out to you earlier. Don't think we have enough time to go through it again as these guys continue to grid up. And again, we'll have two full fields of racing as we move along. As Duel 2 will start at 9:30 Eastern Time. And, of course, getting started a little bit late here is Duel 1. Original kickoff was at 8, so we'll see how that pushes up. The package today really lends itself to a lot of great close racing, so I'm not sure if we're going to see kind of what the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series saw earlier today. A lot of riding around the top side and a lot of single file racing. Don't think that is going to quite be the case here at FTF. And of course the test I was a part of, again, if that is any indication, it's going to be a lot of close white knuckle racing, but a lot of clean racing as well. And I think we're going to have to reset here. A couple drivers missing the grid.
Drivers, to your cars.
So again, we'll keep you tuned up here, and again, just have to give a shout out to all of our supporters, the Sim Racing Association, everybody at FTF that have really supported this deal. And again, we're just, I don't know about you, Joe, I'm just ready to see what these guys are capable of, and kind of all that stuff that's been waiting over the off season, all that dust you got to shake off, and we'll see how it shakes out here as Duel 1 gets started here shortly.
Yeah, absolutely, and we'll line them up again, and we'll get the driver command here in just a little bit once again. But I want to kind of touch on a little bit what you were speaking of earlier as far as the package rules and the differences in FTF here in 2019 this year as compared to what they were running in 2018. For those of you that are familiar with the NR 2003 simulation, as we will go trackside real quick. There we go. All right, catching the end of the command there to get these cars rolling again. That splash and go Dodge Challenger pace car there, getting us underway here. But just covering package details, once again, FTF ran the CTS physics on their super speedways last year in 2018. And then went to Cup Series physics with a modified EXE to kind of mimic the 2018 rules package. Well, they're going to do something a little bit similar this year as well, Blake. However, they're going to stick to running CTS physics to kind of mimic the low downforce package that we're seeing NASCAR switch over to for the 2019 year. But Kevin McAdams, one of the supporters, administrators, and co-admins here over at FTF, still going to be editing the EXEs this year as well to just add to it just a little bit. But how much different do you think the racing is going to be between the two different packages? Obviously, CTS physics is notorious for being a little more wide open because of the horsepower differences in the cars. Do you think this is going to open up the possibility for drivers this year to find a couple new faces in victory lane as to opposed to what we were used to seeing in the 2018 season out of some of the FTF drivers?
Yeah, I think we're going to see quite a mix here. And obviously, if there's a track where you don't really know who's going to end up in victory lane, don't think you can really explain it any better than Daytona. We've seen a real diverse set of drivers come out and win this race. Guys like Ryan Williams, a very competitive driver that, ran very well here for years. Guys like John Poole, Jake Pullen, Corey Carpenter, a Final Four driver from last season. So you really have a mix of guys that kind of run in the top 20, be able to come out here and really be competitive. And again, with the beginning of the season, you have a lot of teams just forming and a lot of guys really trying to help their teammates out here. So that is definitely a big help. I know the Do It For Dale duel that I took last season and went to victory lane, it was in large part because of you and David Day, who were my teammates that day, just being smart with strategy, giving me the pushes that I needed to get to victory lane. So it really all comes to fruition here, and it looks like the field starting to get in their right spots. And I believe once they roll here to turn 3, the pace speed right now looks like it's slowed down to about 45, 50 miles an hour. And as soon as they hit the high banks of turns 3 and 4, once we get it all sorted out, we'll go to a normal pace speed. And then Taylor Morgan's a familiar and fresh face here, really in the NR 2003 community and here at FTF. We'll get this field underway. And next to Michael Frisch, too, a guy that came in last season, didn't quite run long enough to compete in the chase for the championship, but really put up a lot of good efforts, almost won at the Roval last season, and is definitely a guy that is capable of coming out here and winning this thing. And again, you got a couple veterans out there on the front row here at FTF that are ready to kind of show, maybe show these newer guys what they want to do. It looks like Taylor Morgan's out there up front, will elect to take the top side. So an interesting move there. He's out there all alone. Again, his Team Crush teammate is right behind him there. And David Day sitting in the 6th spot, so perhaps a move there to get more lined up with a teammate. So again, the 2019 off-season has been long, even though it's the shortest off-season in sports, but we're going to come off of turn number 4, and the field is going to be under the control of the 2017 FTF Cup Series champion in Taylor Morgan's. And the 2019 season, the Do It for Dale Duels are going to get kicked off, and we're going to see the green flag in the restart zone, and we are green here at the World Center of Racing, and what a restart. Taylor Morgan's gets out to a significant jump, and David Day may actually be able to pull up with Frisch, and Melillo looks to duck low, but right now it is Taylor Morgan setting sail in turn number 1.
Yeah, that 36 machine got a phenomenal restart out there to get him out. Looks like Justin Melillo is going to dive all the way down to the bottom. That's going to line that number 5 up with his teammate in the 36 of Taylor Morgan's. That'll be a couple of new stories we're going to have to cover throughout the year, as well as the differing changes from team moves all throughout the year. But we're 2x2, 36 up on the top. 71 slides up just a little bit. No contact there. Everybody keeps it straight. 77 right out the back windshield as well, as these guys come around to complete lap number 1 of the Do It for Dale duel number 1 here at the Daytona International Speedway. Justin Melillo and that number 53 Jeg sponsored machine is going to take us around.
And we complete that first lap under the green flag. Again, a lot of these guys shaking off rust from the off season, not really sure if you can get out to the great start that you want. So again, a good job by these guys starting under the green flag right now. That bottom lane looks like they have quite the momentum right now. That top side only has about 6 or 7 cars pushing there in the top pack, and Taylor Morgan's right now in the lead, getting a shove from David Day, but that is not working out as they continue to fall back through the field. But right now, Frisch and Melillo and Wetz hooked up front, and they're going to keep it going. And again, that bottom side, it looks like all the way through the field, you have guys electing to go to that bottom lane. And right now, as again, we complete lap 2, Justin Melillo out front here at Daytona.
Yeah, a lot of these guys are just settling in. This is a long race, so over 60 laps here, and we're only completing lap 3 of the event, I'm sorry. And looks like David Day and Taylor Morgan's have lost all of their support up on the top side. Justin Melillo still leading that bottom line in the 53. He's got the number 58 of Michael Frisch there on his bumper, the 71 of Chris Wetz down there as well. Looks like it's a little bit of a low line fest. Nothing that we haven't seen before. It takes a little bit of time for that top group to kind of work its way in. You got to get some people that are brave enough to go out there and actually try it and be willing to risk losing a couple positions before they establish themselves out there as well. So I wouldn't expect that that top side line to be completely dormant for the the entire length of this race here. I think that we'll get some guys that'll get out there that'll figure out how to use it, and if there's anybody that can do it, for sure Taylor Morgan's and David Day are two of the guys that I would not think would shy away from continuing to use this line throughout the remainder of the event.
No doubt about that. David always one to be, we'll say, aggressive and push the issue. And right now, again, Taylor Morgan's and David Day falling outside the top 10, and a couple newcomers coming into it. You have Matt Murr, the Roland Machine in the 0-2, Sean Whitehill, Dylan Smith, Dante Ritchie, and Davey Hazard. Again, not regulars here at FTF. They've gotten in that inside lane, and it's looking to prove dividends. Looks like we have a slow car coming out of the pit road, I believe. That is the 41 machine of Patrick Fernandez, there. He is already 3 laps down. And again, we are seeing that single file race. You have to remember the strategy here isn't necessarily to go up there and win. It's to make sure that you are in a spot that will lock you into the Daytona 500 next week. And so some of these guys may be trying to play it safe, get up to that threshold where they know they can lock themselves into next week's event. As again, we continue to see an assortment of through the field that these guys are getting single file. And again, I can't say that I would have been able to predict this earlier on. And looks like still that high side, Taylor Morgan's and David Day looking for a way to try to get down, but it is just not working yet.
Yeah, no, nothing yet, but, you know, with how early this race is and how long the race is, I'm also not surprised in the same sense. We got to expect that some of these guys are going to be patient and, you know, bide their time and ride around, and I'm sure within you know, the last 20 laps or so, when we get down to the end of the first duel here, that's when we'll really see the intensity start to pick up. But we're still going to have pit stops throughout this race as well, and green flag pit stops is something that I know a lot of these guys would like to see, because, you know, the nature of the beast when it comes to green flag pit stops is separation in the field. And if you get these guys spread out a little bit, that's what a lot of these guys, probably ones up towards the front, are going to want to see, because it doesn't mean that there's a whole lot of ground for them to lose if something should happen. So that'll set aside the experienced guys from the guys that may not have as much experience when it comes to these green flag pit stops, and a setting this big where we have over 30 cars that are on the track here, Blake.
I definitely don't expect them to move too soon. Right now it's the top 14 that will move on to next week's race, and right now Taylor Morgan's holding strong to that 14th position. Now you start to see a little bit of some of these guys in the back of the field starting to get up to that top side, guys like the 91 of Bailey and the 76 of Carmichael, the 77 of Kyle Riley, moving his Toyota up into the top side. Looks like we have two wide racing from about 10th to, looks like about 30th in this field. It looks like the guys that were patient, biding their time at the beginning of this race, starting to get a little bit more antsy. You want to try to make something happen. They don't want to just get in a single file groove and let this pack drive away. I do know as a result of the testing I did somewhat earlier, you really need somebody behind you to try to make the draft work. If you're the back of a pack, it is rather difficult to try to keep up and try to make something happen if you don't have somebody pushing from behind you. So it's definitely necessary, as field will come up on a lap car. Again, that 41 machine of Hernandez will elect to go another lap down and will try to stay with this pack and perhaps get a yellow that may put him back on the lead lap. He'll have a couple yellows to go before that happens, but we are coming up now, lap 9 down of the 60 that will make up this event. We'll approach lap 10 right now. Relatively calm first 10 laps, as Justin Melillo has led all 10 of them. Again, Melillo elected to make the playoffs last season, and he'll lead lap 10. As again, a little more action there on that high side, as some of these guys are starting to build some momentum for lane number 2.
Yeah, I've seen the cars move around just a little bit as well, so some of these guys may be having a handful with the way the cars are handling out there, and that's going to make it a little more interesting on, you know, how guys are able to maintain those two lanes when it comes to running against one another. You know, the side draft feature in NR is existent in a sense where if you can catch the draft from the guy in front of you and get down just close enough, you can kind of mimic that side draft in the NR 2003 simulation. So that might hurt the ability to be able to do that if these guys continue to move around. The guys on the bottom not really able to keep it pegged down to the yellow lines. We see the number 1 machine of Dylan Smith make a brazen move underneath the, I believe that was the 65 of Sean Whitehill, to get underneath him there and buck him out of line up into the top groove there and advance his way forward. I'm sorry, that was the 82. The 82 machines who moved out of the way to get himself up there, Dante Ricky. So very aggressive move by the number 1 machine early on here in the event, but you know, that's something that we expect out of these super speedway races. A lot of guys really haven't raced with each other before. This is a very diverse and unique field of FTF drivers that we're going to see this year. So that's something that we should just grow and come to expect. And I'm looking forward to seeing what we see out of the rest of this event, as it looks like, Blake, a lot of cars have started to move up to that middle high groove here, and they've kind of all moved away from the bottom groove. So we've seen a little bit of a switch in the lanes from what we saw through the first 10 laps of the race so far.
I was just about to point that out. The 82 of Dante Ritchie jumped up in front of that Butterfingers Chevrolet of Taylor Morgan. He'll try to pioneer that top side, and again, you can look back through the field here on the back straightaway and see that a lot of drivers are electing to do the same. Ritchie now starting to pull up on 4th place in that bottom line. He'll try to catch that 3rd machine of Davey Hazard as he runs alongside the 1 machine of Smith. Again, Smith running one of those new Mustangs. Have to give a shout out there to Splash and Go Graphics for making this beautiful mod, and most of that including the addition of not only the Ford Mustang but the Dodge Challengers that you see out there. Again, a bit of a fantasy move right there, but obviously I wouldn't drive anything but a Dodge, so glad to see it out there. But I think the thing that's interesting, you see a lot of support, a lot of energy going to that top side, but it looks like Richie's just kind of stuck out there. Can't really seem to break free, go past that 30 car. Those top 5, they're glued nose to tail, and they are really pushing each other very well right now. You have some veterans out there in Wets, Frisch, and Malillo pushing each other very well, but how about Dylan Smith? He'll look like he'll poke out to the outside. That may be what this group needs. Instead of 4 locked up on that bottom side, maybe Smith will be trying to make the move here as we approach lap number 14 in this race. Dylan Smith trying to make something happen on the outside.
Yeah, saw the one make the move up to the top side, and you needed to create a little bit of separation between the cars down on the bottom and utilize the speed of the top side up there. And maybe with the extra car, we'll see if that number 1 machine can tow the rest of the outside line up to the front. He's made his way up to the door of the number 30 of Davey Hazard up there, looking at trying to get up to the 71 of Chris Wetz and see if they can break themselves into the top 3. Still really not able to do much of anything. Taylor Morgan's really all over the back bumper of the number 82 of Dante Ricky, and David Day is all over the back bumper of the 36 of Taylor Morgan's, trying to do whatever they can to get him up there. It just doesn't seem like they have enough up there, as now we see the line shift. Justin Malillo looked like he tried to throw a block on the number 58 of Michael Frisch to get himself up there. Frisch not having any of that. Him and Chris Wetz make a great move up to the top side. They're going to go door to door with the number 53 machine of Malillo down the backstretch.
They will still want to remind you 45 laps to go, but yet it looks like these drivers starting to shake off some impatience here as we have a new leader. Michael Frisch will go to the top spot, and it looks like he will hold it over Justin Malillo. Again, that top line, not really sure if you want to try to elect to take that 3rd lane or if you want to try to pinch that line below and try to hold them on the bottom, try to run them out of room there on the bottom side. Just haven't run enough on this specific racetrack to know how to mess with that. You see there Taylor Morgan's on your screen having a little bit of connection issues, and it looks like the field being smart, giving him some room to try to sort that out. But yet, even with that, that top side is still digging. Michael Frisch still holding strong there on the top side, but again, that bottom side also doing well also. See Justin Malillo still able to hang as Davey Hazard is being a very loyal pusher to him, giving him the shoves he needs to try to stay up there. Although we approach lap 17 right here, going to have to start wondering when these guys are going to elect to duck down for fuel, because really, if you think about it, these super speedway races, if they go green, that is probably the most important part of a race, is these green flag pit stops. And now Taylor Morgan's looks like he's quite the hazard out there with his work.
Yeah, 36 having some serious connection issues there. 4th or 5th car in line up there on the top side. And about 2 laps ago, his teammate David Day was all over his bumper when that started, and David Day got shifted down into the middle groove there, and we almost had a huge accident going through the tri-oval. Luckily, they were all able to keep it straight. Not sure how long the administrators are going to allow the 36 to stay up there in line with those connection issues. In the past, they've been known to ask guys to move themselves to the back to avoid having an accident here, so I think they'll probably try and give him another lap or so to try and get that sorted out, and if it continues, they may ask him to move himself to the rear of the field. But so far, it looks like it's calmed down just a little bit. Everybody's been able to keep it straight in line, and the 2 groups here, they're about even. They're up to the door. The 53 of Justin Malillo, Michael Frisch still trying to do all he can to really solidify that number 58 Ford Mustang out there in the lead. He's got support from 3 Ford Mustangs behind him, the 71 of Chris Wetz and that number 1 of Dylan Smith, before we get back to that number 82 machine of Dante Ritchie.
Yeah, it looks like that's starting to smooth out. May try to push that lane as well. Right now, these 2 lanes look just about even. You really have an even number of cars all the way through the field, as we are 2 wide all the way back to, it looks like you can look at this lead back about, say about 29 cars, as right now Phil Parker, the 47 of Miller, the 017 of Greed, Michael Marotta, the 68 of Alvarez, 41 of Hernandez, and then Kyle Markle are the cars that have either elected to retire for this event or are not a part of that lead pack right now. So starting to get a little dicey up front, and back to the bottom go Wetz and Frisch, as they will leave Ritchie and Morgan's up there to dry. That bottom line starting to work again. Malillo ducks out, and he'll tuck back in right now as Michael Frisch continues to hold his lead here on lap 20.
Yeah, looking through some of the chat and commentary on our YouTube live stream, saw Kevin McAdams say if the 58 gets into the lead and moves down, the high line is gone, and he just about called it. As soon as the 58 got out there, the 71 and the 1 all cleared the 53 of Justin Malillo, all moved themselves down to the bottom line. And now we see the 82 of Dante Ritchie struggling up there on the top side. He's got help from that number 91 machine of Joey Bailey now. He moves out there. Going to see if maybe the 91 machine can do anything to get himself up to the lead here on the top side.
Yeah, he'll move up there, but it looks like a bunch of drivers abandoning that top side. Again, Bailey and that really beautifully prepared Budweiser Dodge Challenger looks like he doesn't have a lot of friends up there, as some drivers electing to go to the bottom side, and a bit of a shuffle of drivers here through 6th through 10th. Again, Noah Carmichael has worked his way up into the top 10. Bailey there on the outside as well. The 82 still hanging strong, and Kyle Riley still being a part of the mix. He's in the 11th spot, but not a lot of changes. Again, I think with a lot of this move to the bottom, you're seeing guys get close to where they're going to have to pit here for green flag stops. So, of course, you want to be on the bottom side of the racetrack, try to have an easy exit down there to pit road. But one thing I did not see a lot of in happy hour, apart from the 72 machine of Matt Murr, who is not a part of this pack, guys practicing green flag pit stops, and I cannot emphasize enough, if you're going to win on super speedways under green flag, you're going to have to learn how to pit here. And of course, FTF also has a rule that if guys wreck entering the pit road and it does not affect the race on the track, there is no yellow. So these guys have to be very careful around each other and make sure they don't spin each other out, because that can be a quick way to make sure that you're not in the 500 next weekend.
Yeah, definitely something to keep our eye on when we get down to our pit window for green flag pit stops here. And got to wonder how aggressive drivers are going to be out there to try and get themselves down to the bottom line. I mean, first time, got to get the dust and the jitters out, Blake. These guys haven't really been racing a whole lot here over the last couple of months. Off season for sim racing in full effect, except for the exception of a few leagues, obviously. But, you know, especially with this being the first time, a lot of these guys, like we said earlier in the show, a lot of new faces to FTF, a lot of people who haven't really run around one another before through different leagues and whatnot, and you put them all on a track, and now you're asking them to all go down pit road and hope that they can actually make it onto pit road in one piece. That's a lot to ask out of a lot of these guys. I mean, FTF has some of the, you know, the most talented drivers that we've seen in the community, so if anybody can do it, it's certainly this group of guys. But hey, you know, you never know. Anything can happen in these type of races, especially super speedways.
That's certainly true. As we approach lap 24, we'll give you a quick full-field rundown. Michael Frisch in first, Chris Wett second, Dylan Smith third, Justin Malillo fourth, Taylor Morgans in fifth, Noah Carmichael in sixth, Kyle Riley in seventh, Joel Bailey in eighth, David Day in ninth, and then Matt Murr will be in 10th. 11th will be David Hauser, 12th, Shane Sides, 13th is going to be the 65 of Sean Whitehill, 14th, Cole Baker, 15th, Dante Ritchie, 16th, Zach Rogers, 17th will be the 02, that'll be Travis Roland, 18th will be the 04 of Cam Barnes, 19th will be the 14 Jason Hubbard, and then in 20th Zach Tratowski. And we'll have to kind of look forward to the rest of this field. Trying to catch up now, as it looks like one car is out of shape there on the apron. It looks like he will hang around and saved it. A really great save there, that Toyota machine trying to catch up to the back of the pack. It looks like he may not be able to do it. That's the 10 of Shane Sides, who had a questionable moment there, is able to keep it going and will stay under green flag conditions.
Yeah, what a save by the 10. Looks like there was a little bit of action up there in the beginning of the pack where David Day was out there leading the high line. Contact out of the tri-oval, I think, got a lot of those guys stacked up. And fortunately, Shane Sides in the 10 car, he's going to be the one that suffers the most, able to keep the car straight and going, but it looks like he's definitely going to lose the draft here. So he's going to be a guy that's going to be looking for a caution here to get him back into contention. Otherwise, I'm afraid that he's going to be running the risk of missing the FTF Daytona 500 here if this thing stays green.
Well, certainly it looks like Cole Baker may have been the culprit. Just a situation where the 10 checked up and the 11 machine of Cole Baker and that Super Smash Brothers Toyota was not able to check up coming out of the tri-oval in time, got into the back of him. But again, a remarkable save there by Shane Sides, who will again be running around there in the 29th position, way off the pack. May need to come down pit road to try to not lose as much time without that draft, because again, now we are single file really up through the first 8 or 9 cars or so here in the lead pack. Michael Frisch still continues to lead. It's really been Frisch, Wetz, and Smith and Malillo for the majority of this race. How about Noah Carmichael having himself a run? He ran top 5 2 years ago in the Daytona 500, and he's having a good run today as well. And I believe with all the single file racing you're seeing here, and we're approaching lap 30, really think these guys are not that far away from coming down onto pit road.
Yeah, I'm going to assume this is probably going to be a one-stop race here if these guys manage their fuel window efficiently. So we should be getting pretty close here. You see a lot of the guys moving down and forming this one line on the bottom, which usually is an indication that pit stop should be up here coming pretty quick. We see Taylor Morgans and David Day still trying to make something work on the top side, but they just have no help outside of the 2 of those guys that are up there trying to do that. So I would imagine we're going to see pit stops here pretty quick, Blake, and this will be the deciding factor, especially if this race stays green. The guys that can go in there and gain the most time on pit road and get themselves back out there with the pack are going to be the ones that will probably end up finding themselves racing next Sunday for that coveted Daytona 500 trophy.
No doubt about that, Joe. And really, you got to think for some of these guys, this is a little bit of assurance right now, as you've had several drivers, if we could list the amount that have kind of fallen off the pack. Shane Sides, in trouble here in turn number 1. It's the leader. Michael Frisch is around. Chris Wetz is up in the air, and they're flipping wildly in turns 1 and 2. And again, it's going great, and all of a sudden it can turn to chaos in flat, and it was at the lead pack. Michael Frisch got turned around in front of the field, and the caution flag is out for the first drivers that have been involved in that accident. As we'll continue to look through, it looks like it started around with the leader, Michael Frisch. We see several cars turned over here. The 65 into the outside wall of Sean Whitehill, the 72 up in the air and on his roof. Matt Murray is involved in it. Zach Rogers looks like he was able to skid through. But again, pandemonium here at Daytona, and again, that's great news for Shane Sides and a couple of these other drivers that have fallen off the pack. They get the chance to catch back up, and eventually we will get to the What the Splash Happened replay, as Joe Allen, again working in our control booth, will get you the replay here in just a moment. Again, the What the Splash Happened replay review brought to you by Splash and Go Graphics, the best in the business. Visit Splash and Go Graphics, not only to catch up with this mod, but look at the amount of great work they do for the NR 2003 community. And Joe, I don't know if you're ready quite yet, as it looks like Zach Rogers actually just got turned on pit road. He'll keep going though, but Joe, are you ready there with the replay?
Yes, sir, Blake, I sure am. We got it loaded up here right now. We had it playing just a little bit. Oh, we just lost it. We'll go back and try that again. But as you saw there briefly when the replay was up, the 58 looks like he got turned by the 71. So I'll throw it back to you. Let me go back there and see if we can find that one more time.
All right, no problem. We'll be looking for that replay. But again, Michael Frisch looks like he was just a sitting duck out there in front of the pack. Right where you want to be, right in the lead with a guy, Chris Wetz, that has really pushed you out front and been a pretty loyal pusher at that. It just looks like going into turn 1 just had a little bit too much momentum behind him, and it just sent him around. There wasn't, anybody who's run this game, there's kind of a gap between 2 cars and you go to bump them, it gives them a little bit of a jolt, a little bit of a push. And then there's also another feature where if you're kind of glued to somebody's rear bumper, you're just kind of stuck there. But it looks like the surge that Wetz had forward was just a little bit too much, pushed Frisch up there, and really just kind of came out of nowhere. Don't really blame Chris Wetz. He's trying to push his teammate there, but of course when that happens at the front of the field, it's just really not anywhere for these guys to go.
Yeah, as we have the replay shown here on the screen, you saw just exactly what you said there. The one of Dylan Smith tumbling over and over, that's going to end his night pretty much. The 72 wreck-in. David Day looks like he's collected in that in the number 5 machine. A lot of the guys that we saw running up front all collected here, and some of the guys like David Day, who we expect to be able to compete in the Daytona 500 should he make it there, relying on owner's points, and he's not very good in owner's points because of the limited amount of starts that he made last year. And I'm sure there's a lot of guys just like him that are going to be in that same situation that we're involved in this wreck. They're going to have to try and salvage some finishing positions here. So that's definitely going to be something that we're going to have to watch for moving forward as well, Blake.
Absolutely. A couple big licks for some of these guys. Other guys like Joel Bailey, the 32 machine, looks like they're able to squeak by with a minimal amount of damage, may able to be still competing in this thing. We got the one to go here last time, so you'll see them doubling up here. The 77 of Kyle Riley and Justin Malillo, two administrators here at FTF, looks like they're going to take the lead and will have the share of the front row. So again, these guys got to get double file behind them here on the back straightaway. We'll take a look at the cars that are not on track after that accident. And to nobody's surprise, it's going to be Chris Wetz that gets the bad end of that. The 2017 Final Four driver is out of this thing and will have to rely on either his qualifying time or his owner's points to put him into FTF's edition of the Great American Race. The FTF Daytona 500 presented by the 103rd Indy 500. But I'm not the one that sponsors these things. So again, we'll come into turn 3, 2 wide. And it looks like Kyle Riley and Justin Malillo about set and ready to go here. But Joe, I'll ask you real quick here before we get going green. An accident happens after a long green flag stretch. Still only 30 laps to go. How high do you think the intensity is out there?
I think these guys are probably in need of a little bit of a break. I mean, sure, yeah, you can make the complaint that it's super speedway racing, but as we see, I don't know what the 88's doing back there. He hasn't made up his mind if he wants to stay on the racing service or not, as we see him rejoin us once again. So we'll try that again with Darren Ingram. But the 77 is going to take us down into the restart zone here. Green flag back out in the air. He's going to get the jump over the 53 of Justin Malillo. But to go back and cover what you were saying, I mean, I think the intensity is going to pick up here, assuming that these guys all came down pit road and put 2 gallons of fuel in, or more than 2 gallons of fuel, 2 cans of fuel in their car. They should be able to make it through the end of the race here. So I would imagine it's going to be a little feverish, everybody trying to get with their partners here and put themselves in position. We've seen that, you know, it hasn't been the easiest to make that outside line work and make passes. So I think if you're a guy that's sitting back in, you know, outside the transfer positions here, you're going to have to do something drastic to get yourselves in there. So I think we'll definitely have to pay attention to the bubble spots here towards the end of these events and see who's going to secure themselves into the Daytona 500 and who's going to miss the show.
No doubt we'll be bringing that to you. The top 14 in this event will be locked into the Great American Race, and the rest of this field will be set by virtue of the qualifying speeds that they had coming in, owner's points, and a mix of things that we don't really know until the conclusion of not only this duel, but duel number 2 that will take place after this one is over. So all of these guys that are out of this race and guys that are looking forward to the next race, watching with great anticipation to see if they're one of the few that will be taking part in the race, the 500 miler next weekend. Right now, it looks like Kyle Riley has settled himself into the lead with Justin Malillo closely behind, Davey Hazard in third, Noah Carmichael. A great run from the Macaroni driver there in that Toyota. He'll be in the 4th spot. And then 5th, how about this? A guy that has contributed a lot to FTF, but not necessarily a guy that has run full-time. Zach Rogers, he's up there in the top 5 as well, pioneering that high side with David Day along with Matt Watkins, who has settled in. But right now, I think you can look all the way through this field. I think Rogers and Day are going to see the back of the field here very quickly as everyone in this lead pack is elected to go to the bottom side.
Yeah, Zach Rogers went up there. It looked like David Day and Taylor Morgans had a head of steam coming, but the line stalled out, and Taylor jumped back down to the inside in front of, I believe, the number 32 machine of Nathan Kiani there. But now Taylor back up onto the bumper of his teammate, that number 5, and they're pushing Zach Rogers, trying to see if they can get anywhere. They're right up to the door of the 11 of Cole Baker, number 85 machine of Doug Lockrow, making one of the few starts. I think he's eligible for Rookie of the Year honors this year in FTF as well, but Doug making one of his first starts in the series as well. Good to see him cracking into the top 10, guy that we've raced with a bunch, so having some success here as well. And believe that's the number 11 or the 04 machine up there in front of him. Yeah, the 04 machine of Cam Barnes is up there as well. And, you know, you talked about Matt Watkins a little bit earlier. Haven't heard from Matt recently. Used to race with him a bunch, but it's good to see Matt Watkins back here running. Don't know if he's going to make a full calendar year at FTF, but out here nonetheless and running in that number 5th position up there in that number 20 Toyota Camry machine. So seeing if he can lock himself into the Daytona 500 as well, Blake.
I think you saw there Zach Rogers make a smart move there. Getting into the top 10, he was the lead of that outside lane. He elected to go back down to the bottom. And again, these guys not necessarily looking to win. They just want to be in the show next weekend. And right now we put him in the 10th spot as he'll duck down there to the inside line. But it looks like Taylor Morgan's really trying to help his teammate here. Again, Morgan's locked into the front row for the 3rd consecutive year. He's been the pole sitter hitter here at Daytona. And not only that, he took it by about 15 hundredths of a second over 3rd place. It was a close battle there with Mike Fallon for the top spot. So again, he's been taking some risk here. He can afford to without having to worry about whether he's in the race or not. He's definitely in, but you can see all the way through this field single file, and I'm sure that with that caution flag and these guys going over 30 laps that last time around, there's going to be no green flag stops to look forward to. We can go green to the end of this thing, and just surprised to see these guys single file all the way through the field with what's at stake here.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know what the strategy is here for guys that are sitting back outside the top 14. I don't know if maybe our calculations are just off and we're anticipating another pit stop here or what's going on, but I'm surprised to see that we only have 2 drivers that are up there even attempting inside the top 14 to do something with it. I would think that with just about 20 laps to go, which we're just about there, Blake, that there would be a little more sense of urgency from some of these guys to lock themselves into the Daytona 500, but we just haven't seen it yet. It's really just been the aggressive moves from the 5 of David Day and Taylor Morgans, who, as you said, has nothing to lose, just trying to push his teammate into a transfer spot basically and keep themselves up there. But everyone inside the top 10 has been pretty much content to just stay where they're at, which, you know, given the circumstances, I don't blame them for that. But guys outside the top 14, I'm waiting to see if maybe any of those guys are going to make a move and start that second groove and help out David Day and Taylor Morgans, but we just haven't seen it yet.
Well, right now it is the 88 of Darren Ingram in that Nationwide Chevrolet Camaro holding on to Precious Real Estate, and that's the 14th spot. The last spot to get into the 500. You can actually see that's the only spot on the track where they are 2 wide. Is now he'll move past the 5 of David Day and Taylor Morgans. Move up into that 13th spot, but again, lose that momentum. It looks like that 14 car right in front of him will dive back down to the bottom, that 14 machine of Hubbard. But Hubbard looking to make some moves here. He's been ducking in and out of the bottom and top lanes. He'll put his 14 Toyota in front of that 5 machine of David Day and try to make something happen. That 14th spot right now being held by the car that is behind that 88 right there. I believe it's Joel Bailey. And again, you see that single file up front, they're good. They know they're in, but behind them, right around that transfer spot is where you're starting to see the race get a little bit hairy.
Yep, and we said it earlier, about 20 laps to go. We're going to have to keep an eye on the transfer spot. We're starting to see cars move up into the high lane here. The number 14 machine of Jason Hubbard, another one of our Rookie of the Year contenders here this year as declared. You can see the orange illuminated stripes on the rear of his Toyota Camry next time the camera cycles around there. He moves up in front of the 5 machine of David Day there. They're battling right alongside the 02 of Travis Rowland, trying to see if they can get themselves back up towards the transfer spot there. That is held by that number 02 machine currently here. Last time scoring cycled around, and there goes the 14. He's going to duck back down onto the inside lane, leave the 5 machine up there. You see a little bit of chain reaction stack up there. Cars moving around violently. Looks like we had a little bit of a bad bump draft between the 88, the 02, and the 14 there, Blake. Near miss. Lucky we didn't have an accident there. Everybody keeps it straight, and we keep going.
Well, you see these guys, they're bump drafting really close, but the one spot you can't really do it in is in the turns. As we saw, that's the only caution of the race is when Frisch got hit from behind. It looks like Hubbard about had the same thing happen when Bailey got into the back of him, but that'll move Hubbard out of the transfer spot, and that'll move Taylor Morgans and Roland back into it. Again, that 02 unsponsored Toyota. You know, we may have to put a VMN logo on that car if he's able to make it into the race. Can't let him run the 500 unsponsored. But again, these guys that are right behind him, guys like the 31, Dylan Poteet trying to make their way in. Matt Murray in the 72, he's recovered. Joel Bailey as well in that Budweiser machine. They know that race is right in front of them and time is running out. We are under, as we approach lap 43, we have 17 laps to go. And once you hit that 10 to go mark, it's going to get pretty crazy up in here.
Oh, yeah, intensity is going to start to pick up here. We see the 0-2. Looks like he's going to duck out of lane. He's going to get turned by the 14 machine. David Day is going to be collected over end and end into the catch fence. Big wreck here off of turn 2, Blake. Cars rolling around all over the racetrack. I'm going to throw it back to you to talk about what we just saw there. I'm going to get the replay queued up so we can show this thing in slow motion.
Well, it looks like what we were just talking about, bump drafting in the turns, is going to come back and bite some of these drivers again. It looks like Roland moving up a little bit off the high side. He left the door open for the 14 and then just came back down too late. Hubbard nowhere to go, and that'll turn the 0-2 around right in front of this field. And again, there's going to be about 5, 6, 7, 8 cars that go end over end here on the exit of turn number 2. Of course, you said David Day, he is involved as well. The 10 machine of Shane Sides was in that. A great recovery after that near spin earlier. He'll get some damage out of that as well. The 72 of Matt Murray, it looks like he showed us the bottom side of his car. That's his second rollover of the night. But otherwise, it just looks like a bunch of carnage here on the back straightaway. The 017 of Greed is involved. Anthony Miller, he got turned around. And again, these guys that are being patient here in the back, we see that out front, they're content to run in their spot, but right around that transfer spot is where that wreck happened, and I'm sure we'll see a little bit more of that as now the laps will continue to wind down.
Yeah, absolutely. Give me just a second here as we lost connection to the server out of nowhere, so we'll get back in there in just a second. Sorry for the technical difficulties there, folks. Getting ourselves loaded back in here real quick. Give me just a few moments. We'll get the picture back up there.
No problem, Joe. I can call a radio race anytime. Sound like MRN, hopefully. Right now, they're just dribbling along the back straightaway. Kyle Riley, he is still in the lead. We'll give you a full race rundown while we wait for Joe to get back into the server. Kyle Riley is in first. Justin Malillo second. Davey Hazard in third. Noah Carmichael, a great run in fourth. Matt Watkins will complete the top 5. Cam Barnes in sixth. Doug Lockrow in seventh. Cole Baker in eighth. Zach Rogers in ninth. And then how about that 32 machine? I actually saw a comment earlier that it was going to be Nathan Kaini. There was a weapon out there, but guess what? He's in the top 10. He's locked in so far. Darren Ingram is in 11th. That 14 of Hubbard, despite being in that accident, he is listed in 12th. The 81 of Powell, and that is going to be Jimmy Powell, the third. He's listed in 13th. Joel Bailey in 14th. Michael Frisch in 15th. He's recovered from that accident. Zach Trotowski is in 16th. Sean Whitehill, 17th. Jake Poland in 18th. Dylan Poteet in 19th. Taylor Morgan's in 20th. 21st, Michael Marotta. 22nd, Dante Ritchie. 23rd, Shane Sides. 24th, Matt Murr. 25th, Sean Fay. 26th will be that 0-2 of Roland that we saw roll over there. 27th, Phil Parker. 28th, David Day. 29th will be the 68, and that'll be David Alvarez. And then 30th will be the 017, who sustained a lot of damage in that accident. That is John Greed. 31st, Dylan Smith. 32nd will be the 47 of Andrew Miller. I think I mispronounced that earlier. My apologies there. The 33rd will be the 09 of Tristan Allen. 34th, Chris Wetz. 35th will be the 41 of Patrick Hernandez, who has disconnected from the server. And then 36th, running out the back of this field, is Kyle Merkel. So there you have it. That's the full race rundown as we continue to wind down the laps here in the first Do It for Dale Do at the Daytona International Speedway. Right now, 15 laps to go is what we will approach as they continue to go and ride around under caution. It looks like we didn't have a claim, or actually we did have a claim. It was the 0-2 that took that caution flag, and again, we're just riding around single file. Sure, we'll see double file the next time around, and pretty certain we will see the 2 to go here shortly, and that will be that. So again, the pressure's starting to ramp up here at the Daytona International Speedway. These guys knowing that they are close to being able to make it into the race, and right now 4 drivers will not see the checkered flag guaranteed. That is actually the 005 of David Day, who just had a clutch issue, and then Wetz, Hernandez, and Merkel. We have 4 drivers that are a lap down, and Greed, Smith, Miller, and the 09 of Tristan Allen. So, Joe, we were talking about it just before that accident happened. That battle around that transfer spot is going to get pretty edgy.
Yeah, absolutely, and that is exactly what we saw there. It it got edgy, and cars were taken out. Unfortunately, one of them being our Virtual Motorsports Network machine. So I think we're going to have to find some sponsorship branding for the 500, Blake, because the 3 cars that we have branded are not going to be in the show for the looks of it. So we're going to have to do some searching and see if we can find a driver that wants to run our colors. So, hey, if you make the 500 and you're interested in running a Virtual Motorsports Network machine, feel free to reach out to one of us, see if we can work something out.
Yeah, we'll see if we can hook something up. And, of course, you know, we have the BMN Fastest Lap Award being awarded for the fastest lap. And here at Daytona, that's always interesting because it's never usually the guy up front. It's the guy in the middle of a pack that can get some good draft and get a nice run there. And we'll see who is able to take that award not only here but all season. It looks like Kyle Riley will elect to take the outside lane. An interesting choice there is the bottom. It looks like it has been the choice for many guys here, and it's obviously been when we've had a one-groove race. It's been on the bottom side, not like the Cup race we saw earlier where everybody elected to go to the top side. So Riley will take that outside lane, put Justin Malillo there on the bottom, and a couple of guys right behind him that are sitting pretty. They know they're in. Carmichael, Barnes, Watkins, Doug Lockrow having a great run as well on that 85 Camry. Cole Baker, after being involved in that earlier incident, he's running in the top 10 as well. That 32 machine, Ingram, Hubbard, Powell, and Joel Bailey. That 91 machine is the cutoff here for the race. Michael Frisch, how about after being involved in that first accident, he is still capable of running with these guys. He'll be on the outside looking in as we approach the green flag. When we take the green flag, it will be 14 laps to go here at the Daytona International Speedway. An action-packed duel number 1 set for you, and we have another duel coming up just after this. A great audience tuning into this race. And again, we will approach the restart zone. The way they do it here at FTF is the leader will type in green, be able to get a little bit of a jump, and that will go green in that red restart zone you see on the bottom of your screen. This time it'll be Kyle Riley getting a great jump out to that top spot. Don't know if you want that much of a lead. It looks like he has enough room to tuck down to the bottom, and certainly he does that. He'll pull in front of the 53 machine of Malillo. Don't know if that was planned or not, but nevertheless, it'll work out for the driver. That 77 Toyota. Davey Hazard will settle in third, and a 4-car breakaway will end with Noah Carmichael in fourth. Oh, but there's trouble. The 04 is around. Cole Baker looks like he turned him around again. Pandemonium. The entire field is stuck behind here on the back straightaway, and undoubtedly that will bring out our third yellow flag of the evening as the pressure is continuing to ramp up, and it looks like Cole Baker may have just missed that move, and he set that 04 in an outside wall, and from there, cars are everywhere.
Yeah, very big accident there. Looking to see where that started. I believe that started with the 04 machine of Cam Barnes. We're going to focus our attention on him real quick. Give me just a second here. We're right on the accident. We'll get this thing going real quick.
Yeah, it looks like, again,
yeah, focus on the 04 right here. Sorry, Blake. I believe this started with Cam Barnes. I see the 11 machine of Cole Baker there on his bumper. He goes down to the bottom to get behind the 85 of Doug Lockrow, right in front of the 97 of Zach Rogers, and then starts to come back up the track. Not sure if he meant to go back up there and try to get back in line behind him, but just gets right into the left rear quarter panel of the 04. That sends that Bank of America-sponsored Chevrolet Camaro around into the outside wall, and pandemonium just ensues from there. We see this slow-motion replay. The 14 looks like he's involved. I believe the 91 is going to be involved. Michael Frisch in the 58, he's going to be involved in another accident. Taylor Morgan's right in the middle of one. I think Taylor's been in just about everything that's happened on the racetrack here. The 47, that's Sonny Tallman, I believe. He is involved. The 02's involved. As you said, just basically the entire back half of the field is involved in this accident, Blake.
And that's what's so interesting about Daytona. You can ride around in the back thinking you might be safe, and you just never know. But it looks like right now Cole Baker, he'll claim that yellow, as it looks like he just really just had nowhere to go, just moved up into Cam Barnes in the Bank of America Chevrolet. And unfortunately for Cam Barnes, looks like the bank is empty, and he has quite a bit of damage that he sustained in that accident. May not be enough to catch back up and compete to run for the rest of this race. We are the one to go. We had a quick yellow. It looks like, though, we have another car that is on the inside here. Dylan Smith that may have sustained some damage under yellow. I believe that he's on the inside there. No, he had an engine let go under yellow. Oh, that's unfortunate for the one machine of Dylan Smith. But nevertheless, we will continue to go green. As you see him right there on your screen, he's running on the apron in turns 3 and 4. I believe he'll have to park it. So really unfortunate as that engine goes up in smoke. Right now, it's still the same out front that you saw last time. Kyle Riley on the top, Justin Malillo on the bottom. And we'll see who is going to be in the Daytona 500 as we are approaching 11 laps to go here at the Daytona International Speedway. Kyle Riley, another great jump. He'll cross the start-finish line. Can't cross down to that bottom lane until you cross that start-finish line. And he will duck down to the bottom, and again, got another great jump, but they are too wide all the way through the field. Matt Hawkins, right now, heading up that bottom lane. Doug Locker on the back, but Ingram on the apron looks like he may be able to save it. I believe he does, but he's going to lose a lot of time, but we stay green.
Yeah, heck of a save there in the back off the apron there. Saw a couple cars having some connection issues tonight, and got to give a kudos to all the drivers out there. This is no small field by any stretch of the imagination, and these guys are able to go out there and avoid these cars as they do that, as it looks like we're slowing down. I think we're under caution once again, it looks like, Blake. I didn't see any cars around. Did you see any cars around at all?
I have not seen any cars around, but I did get the word from race control that the caution flag has come out. I know we saw, like we were mentioning earlier, Darren Ingram. Actually, he did end up looping it. It looks like he had it saved. He slid for what was about half of turn 1 there on the apron. A really impressive show of driving from the UFI Rookie of the Year contender. But he was not able to save the car, and it looks like the caution flag will come out. It looks like he even may have spun a second time there for good measure, but nevertheless contact, and he went around, and that'll bring the caution flag out for the 4th time. And not just for the 4th time, the 3rd time in the last couple of laps is now the next time by. It'll be 10 laps, or we are on 10 laps to go right now. We will just got the word from race control. We are at 2 to go right now. Going to look at the chat and see if we have a claim on that caution, and indeed it is going to be the 22 car that got into the back of Ingram right there. It is Phil Parker that will take the caution on that one. He'll have to go to the end of the longest line.
All right, well, we'll get them all cycled up and get them restacked, and we'll try this once again then, shall we? Inside 10 laps to go. Apologize for the lap counter not functioning properly. When the game crashed, we didn't get it reset. So after the conclusion of the first duel here, we'll get out and we'll close that down and reset it real quick and get the lap counter working properly. But as Blake said, we'll keep you guys up to date. Inside 10 laps to go here, duel number 1 for the FTF Daytona 500. 77. Kyle Riley still out front. Justin Malillo in the number 53 machine up in the 2nd position as well, Blake. So as you said, I mean, we've seen calamity over the last, we got through the first 30 laps of the race here clean and green, and once the caution came out there and all these guys got repositioned back together, the sense of urgency really picked up, and we've seen 2 quick accidents here that have slowed the pace of this race back down. So we'll have to keep a close eye out with a lot of cars out there that have damage that we didn't see through the first 30 laps. That position for the 14th spot, the last transfer spot here, is going to be up for grabs, and it's going to be a crazy race back there, I'm sure.
No doubt, and right now it says on our screen lap 52 of 61, which means we are on 51 of 60. We'll restart here with 9 laps remaining in the first Do It for Dale duel here in the 2019 season at FTF. And also want to point something out here, and Joe Allen, you did a great job with this. If you like the logos that are at the top of our ticker, we'd like to remind you that there are still spots available for the 500, a $5 ad. Gets you what is really just a beautiful ticker done by Joe Allen there. You see Splash and Go Graphics, UFI, the ISRA, and FTF that have come together, the SRA as well, to try to make that graphic stick out to you. If you want to buy a slot for the Daytona 500 next week, all we need is $5, and we will make it look beautiful and bad. So we will get these guys 2 abreast here on the back straightaway, and sounds like a broken record, but Kyle Riley and that Smoothie King Toyota still holding strong there. It looks like they have quite a plan here set out as Riley will get out to a lead and just kind of tuck back down in front of the 53 machine. Again, these guys have really been the dominating cars all night, and no need to try to push the issue and get a good start for the 500 next weekend. We still see Davey Hazard, who has run strong all evening long, a wonderful effort from the 30 Toyota. Noah Carmichael as well has been up front all evening long, but it's all going to be the action around that 42 machine of Sean Fay looking to get in. He's in the 14th spot, and right now he is the hold of that precious real estate to try to get into the Daytona 500 next weekend. And he's got some hungry guys behind him. How about Shane Side, still recovering from that earlier accident and falling behind the pack earlier? He's still competing. Zach Trotowski, he still has a ways to go. Alvarez and Hubbard right behind them as well, but the green flag will be initiated by that 77 machine of Riley. Believe we'll see the same thing we've seen the last couple restarts. He'll get out to the lead, duck back down, and now it's going to be a scramble through the back of the pack. Shane Sides is around through the tri-oval. He'll come out to pick exit. It looks like he's around. Don't think the caution flag is going to wave, though. We stay green, but Shane Sides looks like if there's not a yellow, his chances of making the 500 have just gone up in smoke.
Yeah, tough break for that number 10 machine. Looked like he got looped around on the restart there. If we have the opportunity, we'll go back and try and take a look at it. But in the meantime, 77 machine gets a great jump once again. Noah Carmichael in the 76. I'm not sure if this is planned by design or not, but he just doesn't seem to get the best of restarts, but he always finds his way down there in front of the number 20 machine of Matt Watkins, and that might be something that is planned to get them down there and get the Toyotas lined up there on the bottom, the 76, the 20. I believe that is the 30 machine of Davey Hazard up there in front of him as well. So the Camry's working well with one another. The 97 is Zach Rogers, though. He's made his way back up to the top side, trying to filter his way up through the top 10 here. He has help from the 01. Haven't talked much about the 01 machine, but he's moving his way up through there as well.
And just an update on that earlier, went back and watched the replay of Shane Sides. It looks like third gear went out as he was shifting to third gear, and obviously no room for the guy behind him as he sent him around. Not of his fault, of course, just nothing you can do there. Gear went out, and Shane Sides will unfortunately have to hope that these guys wreck him up here in the last couple laps. Right now we're approaching lap 54 of 60, so again, right now, 7 laps remaining in the first Do It For Dale duel. Right now, that 14th spot being held by the 42 of Shane Fay. A couple guys behind him battling hard. It's Roland and Frisch, two of the guys that were kind of the catalyst of those earlier accidents. They got the raw end of it. They're battling right behind him for the 17th position. And now you see Marotta and Hubbard right in front of them trying to get to that 14th spot that Sean Fay is taking a hold of. Everybody right now on the top side except for Morgan's yet again in that 0-1 of Jake Poulin, again a defending champion of the Daytona 500 in 2017. Right now they hold on to that real estate, but Sean Fay is what everybody is after right now.
Yeah, absolutely. All single file through the top 10, though, here it looks like. We see the 77 up there still leading the race with Kyle Riley, 53. Justin Willard in the third machine. Davey Hazard still running in the third spot with the 76. And Noah Carmichael in fourth. 20 and Matt Watkins in fifth. 85 of Doug Lockrow running in that sixth position. We have the 32 machine of Nathan Kiani running in the sixth spot as well. So single file all the way through, Blake, though, with just under 5 laps to go here for the conclusion of the race. Have to keep an eye on that transfer spot, see who's going to make their way into the Daytona 500. A lot of single file racing down on the bottom, though. I expect to see more 2x2 racing here as we get closer to the end of this race here.
5 laps to go now for Kyle Riley at the front of this field. Everybody single file right now. 14th now in the clutches of Taylor Morgans. Again, a guy that really has nothing to lose, nothing to really fight for in this race, other than helping out some teammates. His teammate, though, behind the wall already, the 005 of David Day. But right now we look to the 75 machine of Michael Marotta and see if he can try to make anything happen. It's kind of an interesting spot that he's in right now. He's got a little bit of a gap in front of him, behind him. He knows he needs somebody to help push him, but also that guy that's going to be pushing him, he wants his spot to try to get into the race. So a really interesting position for that 75 to be in. He needs help from behind, but he has to know that those guys will dump him or move by him in an instant if they can. A little bit of a checkup here 0-2 almost around as Frisch tried to check up for him, but they'll keep it going. That's the kind of checkup that the 75 needs to take advantage of. Oh, and the 0-2 bumped the 75 at an awkward angle. That might put Frisch on the outside, and that allows Tristan Allen in the 0-9, the 0-17 of Greed as well. Where have they come from, as they're trying to be a part of this as well?
Yeah, all kinds of moves in action happening all over the racetrack here. Checkups all the way down the bottom side. They got all these guys jumbled up here towards the back with the 0-2 machine, the 17 machine, the 0-9 machine. The 58 of Frisch is still trying to get his way back up there. Let's remember, he's been involved in just about every accident that we've seen so far this afternoon on the racetrack, but he's still out there trying as hard as he can to get himself into a transfer spot as well, Blake. Not sure if he's going to be able to do it. He's running out of time, and we're seeing a little bit of separation from this back pack towards the front pack as well. These guys need to get themselves in line and gain some ground up there onto the guys who hold the transfer spot and try to get themselves back into contention.
Again, as we'll approach the starting line here at Daytona, we'll approach 2 laps to go, and at FTF, that means the point of no return. They can wreck them up, and we will go green all the way to the end if we can cross the start-finish line here, and it looks like Kyle Riley will do just that. 2 laps to go remaining, and do it for Dale Duels. And right now, it's the 0-9 of Tristan Allen and Michael Morota on the outside looking in, trying to catch that front pack. Oh, a little bit of contact in front of them. The 0-1 is into the outside wall. He's going to lose a couple of positions. That will put him out of the event. And right now, Taylor Morgan's holding on to the 13th spot. The 0-9 of Tristan Allen in 14th. Morota trying to crowd him on the bottom, but they're going to still hold steady. That 0-2, I believe, is that 15th car, the outside looking in. Tristan Allen in the Golden Corral Chevrolet will hold on to 14th as we approach the white flag lap here. 1 lap to go as Kyle Riley comes into the tri-oval for the final time. As the standings shake out, indeed, it is that 0-9 of Tristan Allen looking to hold on to his precious ground to get into the Daytona 500. Taylor Morgans will go to the outside lane. It looks like he's going to be left all alone. If the 0-2 of Roland, he can catch him. Oh, Morgans is around. Now that puts the 0-2 into the final transfer spot. Frisch right behind him. Alvarez as well. What move are they going to make? Frisch, he'll dump to the outside. He has some help. Now they're shuffling around. The bottom side is checking up. Guys making moves up in front of 14th may indeed affect the outcome of this race. Frisch is making a move on the outside as we approach the checkered flag. It's going to be Kyle Riley winning the race. But as we cross the start-finish line, it's going to be Sean Fay that holds on to 14th, and he'll transfer into the Daytona 500. Sean Fay, the number 42 Chevrolet, will get it done, along with the rest of this pack that is transferred into the race. Again, a full race rundown. Kyle Riley will finish up in the top spot. Davey Hazard second. Justin Malillo third. Noah Carmichael in fourth. Matt Watkins fifth. Doug Lockrow, out about a run from him, in sixth. The number 32, apparently a weapon. Well, he's going to be a weapon that's in the Daytona 500 of Nathan Kaine. He's up in seventh. Zach Rogers in eighth. Joel Bailey in ninth. And then Matt Murr in 10th. 11th will be Dante Ritchie. 12th, Tristan Allen. 13th, Michael Frisch. And then 14th, that last transferring driver in, will be Sean Fay, the first driver missing out on the action. As of now, of course, owner points pending will be the 68 of David Alvarez. 16th will be that 0-2. He fought so hard to come back. That's going to be Travis Roland that ends up in that position. Again, really unfortunate for these guys. The 0-17 of John Greed, a great battle back as well after that accident. He'll finish up in 17th. Cole Baker, 18th. Phil Parker, 19th. And then 20th will be Dylan Poteet. 21st, Aaron Ingram. 22nd, Taylor Morgans. 23rd, Zach Trostowski. 24th, Jake Poland. 25th, Sean Whitehill. 26th will be the 81 of Powell III. 27th will be the 14 of Hubbard, Michael Morota, and 28th. 29th, Dylan Smith. 30th will be Shane Sides. 31st, Andrew Miller. 32nd, Cam Barnes. 33rd, David Day. 34th, Chris Wetz. 35th, Patrick Hernandez. And then 36th, Kyle Merkel. So, Joe, a really exciting race, not necessarily up front, but a lot of shuffling there around the 14th spot, and it ends up with Sean Fay, Frisch, and Allen transferring into the 500.
Yeah, absolutely. What a heck of a race. We saw kind of what we talked about, a race of attrition for the first 30 laps. I mean, we saw some crazy moves. Guys were kind of keeping it underneath of them, but when we got inside 20 to go, man, the intensity it turned itself up for sure. And what a battle for the last transfer spot there, coming down to the checkered flag, Blake. If that's what we saw out of the first duel tonight, I can't wait to see what we see out of the second duel as well.
Absolutely. We're getting a little bit of word from chat that some guys may have been turned around, and there may be a little bit of shuffling again. We like to reiterate all the results that we're repeating to you are unofficial. As of right now, have not heard any word if there is a caution on any one of these guys that will put anybody out of the Daytona 500. We're just reporting the standings as they come in. We'll obviously update you at the end of the night. In terms of who officially is transferred in, is Justin Malillo and Race Control here. Will repeat them to us, but for right now, haven't heard any differently that Sean Fay may be transferring in. But again, some of those guys right behind him, David Alvarez and 02 of Rolone, they may be interested here to see what happens, and maybe some accident will put them into the 500. We'll report that to you as it comes to us, but right now, that's the standings that we have right now. So action-packed Duel 1, Kyle O'Reilly takes down the win. And again, these guys getting out of the server, and we'll be setting up here for Duel number 2 to start in about 10 minutes. So hard to believe my voice is about gone right now, Joe, and hard to believe we're going to have to do a second race. But it's Kyle O'Reilly, your winner here in the first Do It for Dale Duel, the first winner of the 2019 season here at FTF.
Yeah, absolutely. An incredible end to the first duel here, and excited to see what we have in store for us in the second duel. But with that, we got about 10 minutes before the start of the second duel when we get these guys on the track and on the grid. So me and Blake are going to take a step back for a couple minutes, let ourselves get rehydrated here and get ready to go, reset some timing and scoring software, and we'll be back with all of our fans here in the next 5 to 6 minutes or so. So hang out and chat. Go grab yourself a snack. Go grab a couple things to drink. We'll be back here for the second duel of the night, the Do It for Dale Duels at Daytona International Speedway with the FTF Racing League. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Virtual Motorsports Network here at the Daytona International Speedway with the FTF Racing League. We are getting prepared for duel number 2 for the Do It for Dale duels at Daytona here. If you're just tuning in, you missed duel number 1, but cars are on track here, finishing up our happy hour session. Just over 3.5 minutes left in final practice here before we get 35 of the best cars left here, trying to qualify themselves into the Daytona 500. That'll air next week on Sunday, February 17th. Cars and broadcasting will roll off at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time for the Daytona 500 presented by FTF Racing League. Blake, definitely a fun race that we saw here in duel number 1 as we see cars going by. We got some heavy hitters here lined up for duel number 2. Nick Gunther out there, Chris Hart, Cosman Iona Shoe's going to be in there. Brandon Hawken, Randall Coleman. He just won his league championship race. Kevin McAdams will be out there in the number 26 machine. So a lot of heavy hitters in duel number 2 that we didn't see in duel number 1. I think we're going to be in for an exciting show here.
Well, I think that's the great thing about splitting these guys up like they do in the duel is it always ends up working out that you have a great mix of veterans and some guys that don't have as much experience, and we're definitely going to see that here in the second of our Do It for Dale duels. Again, recap of that first one. It was Kyle Riley, the Macaroni Motorsports driver, that ended up wheeling that 77 Toyota to victory lane and the top 14 advancing. I think we do have a correction, though, that the 68 of David Alvarez will be advancing ahead of the 42 of Sean Fay. Of course, Sean Fay does have adequate owner's points. So, again, those guys that we were saying, oh, well, they're done in the first duel, that only means they're not locked into the race. Again, there's a lot still being determined by the outcome of this race too, and that'll determine if owners points are needed or past champions or what have you. And so of course nothing is really official, and the guys that didn't lock themselves into the race are going to have to watch this race with their fingers crossed, hoping that they get the chance to go to the 500 or perhaps substitute for a driver as well. So we'll definitely have to look forward to that, but nevertheless, let's go ahead and name the Rubbin and Racing Motorsports starting lineup for our second duel of the night. Starting on the pole, a guy that has been around for a couple of years and really put down a screeching lap to try and at least challenge Taylor Morgans for the lead. That'll be Mike Fallon. Of course, he'll be rolling off pole tonight and the outside row of the Daytona 500 next week. Second will be the 08 of Tyler Mallon. Third will be Andrew Fessler on the inside of the second row. Fourth will be Sonny Talman. Fifth will be Cosman Iona Shoe. Sixth, Brian Mercurio. Seventh, Brandon Hawken, a guy that showed up late and put up some impressive runs last year in the playoffs. Eighth will be the defending FTF Cup Series champion Kevin McAdams to the inside of row 5. Well, actually, it's listed as Blake McCandless, but eventually I'll get out there to where I start and park to try to get my car into the race off Owners Points. And then all of you out there, you never know, I could put you in the seat if we get in. So I'll be rolling off in the 9th spot, and Ricky Collette will be rolling off in 10th. Adam Kodal will be starting in 11th, Andrew Schwartz in 12th. 13th will be the 8 of Chad Mikos, and of course he was really close to winning one of these 500s in the last couple of years. 14th will be Jeffrey McClintock. 15th, Henry Nova. 16th, Nick Gunther. 17th, Dylan Schwallenberg. 18th, Trey Coleman. 19th, Chris Hartofelax. And then 20th will be Dejan Weeks. 21st will be Arnold Columbia. 22nd, Joseph Weaver. 23rd, Russell Caney. 24th, Johan Arango. 25th, Brandon Nicholson. 26th, Steve Rada. 27th, Randall Coleman. 28th, Brad Burke. 29th, Jeff Goodpaster. And then 30th, Zachary Stoltz. 31st will be the 92 of Corey Williams. 32nd, Jessica Shelton. 33rd, Jonathan Fitzwater. 34th, Zach Buchanan. 35th, Oscar Ramos Jr. 36th, Nick Baker. 37th, Vincenzo Vosato. And then 38th will be Edivir Leal in the 17 car. That'll round out our Rubbin and Racing Motorsports starting lineup for the second duel here this evening. And, of course, the delay was to get Mike Fallon to run a qualifying lap so that he could take that number 1 pit stall here at the Daytona International Speedway. Of course, the pit stall selections are randomized. They generally are put after what the Cup Series will select. So if you qualify second, you won't be starting in the second spot like it would manually do on NR 2003. You would get the second spot that the Cup Series driver there would usually elect to take. So that way, get a little bit more of a favorable pit stall. We'll see if that'll come into play. Last time they only elected to come down pit road 1 time, and I'm sure if we have any yellow flags, we'll probably see the same thing here. 1 pit stop for fuel. Again, same thing as last time. We will run 1 lap here to try and set the field. Or actually, I see 60 laps there on the ticker, so I think they're going to try to get into space here, maybe crawling on the back straightaway to try to set this field correctly. Instead of going all the way around. I believe that's what they're going to do so that the lap ticker matches up with what we have on our screen. Of course, have to apologize for the technical difficulties last race, as well as some freak accident booted Joe Allen from the server, so we had to bring you some of the news, I guess, and the running order and lap ticker here audibly, but everything should be good to go here, and let's just hope and pray it doesn't happen next week, right, Joe?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the first time that I've been booted out of a server like that. Just a random crash. It happens sometimes. It's an old game running on new operating system and stuff like that. So, you know, we'll continue to try to get the bugs and stuff worked out. But hopefully we got that all situated and sorted out now for the most part. See the 55 of Mike Fallon there starting on the pole here, as he is the outside pole sitter for the Daytona 500. Like you, I'm interested to see what we're going to do here. They gave us 1 extra lap to get the field sorted out last time, but ticker's only showing 60 now, so I know you got race control in your ear, and I don't for obvious reasons, so I don't hear intercommunications over the stream, but I guess we'll figure out how we're going to get the field sorted out here and get everybody in line where they're supposed to be. Pace car is off, though, so I guess time will tell if we go green here or not.
I believe, I think what they're going to do is, just so it aligns with the ticker, we're going to run 60 laps here. It'll show 60 laps, but I believe we're going to go 1 lap past the distance. So instead of displaying 61 laps there, it'll display 60 on the screen, and then we'll do what FTF has been known to do in the past, is go a lap past the distance and get the official running order after the race is completed. So you can see right now all the drivers sorting onto their screen into the Rubbin and Racing Motorsports starting lineup. Again, thanks to Sean Fay for that contribution. Still looking for a couple sponsors to round out our broadcast for the 500, so if you're interested, obviously you can send Virtual Motorsports Network on Facebook a message, only after you like us, though, because you have to like us. I mean, why wouldn't you like us? This broadcast has been amazing. So go ahead and do that if you're interested, and of course, if you want to know some more things about the 500 coming up, look at some highlights and some cool videos we'll have coming out this week. Just check us out at Virtual Motorsports Network on Facebook. Virtual Motorsports Network, the voice of NR. As we get this field sorted out, we'll see if we see a lot of the same that we saw at the front of the pack. We really saw the top 5 last race of Noah Carmichael. Guys like Kyle Riley, Justin Malillo really stuck around there the entire time, and probably would have seen Michael Frisch and Chris Wetz up there as well if they had not tangled there in turn 1 to bring out our first yellow flag. So it looks like if you're starting up front, Joe, looks like you're pretty safe to stay there the whole evening.
Yeah, but, you know, at the same time, you never know. This race is going to have a lot of different drivers in it than obviously what we saw in duel number 1, and some guys may be willing to take chances on the outside here, or, you know, maybe they're more comfortable running different lines other than the bottom line here in duel number 2. So anything is possible, especially with the different driver combinations that you can have set up here. So, you know, I think it can happen. If the first race is any indication of what the second race is going to be based on how the track is set up and the setup has been built, then, you know, the inside line, if you don't have guys that are committed to go and use the top side, the inside line is going to be very tough to beat. But with that being said, if you are committed to the top line, I know a lot of guys in chat were saying this earlier, and if you're familiar with how the package and the setup works, the outside line could be very, very tough to beat if you have the right people up there that know how to use it to its advantage and effectiveness. So, hey, anything's possible, though. We're going to find out here. We got 60 laps to figure out who the 14 drivers are that are going to transfer into the Daytona 500, and there is a possibility that we're also going to maybe broadcast the last chance qualifier before Sunday's race. As we see in the camera angle here at Blake, we had a car spinning off into the infield grass there.
No better way to start off our Do It for Dale number 2 than to see this Michael Waltrip-inspired paint scheme, the 55 of Mike Fallon, get us under green and gets out pretty early here to a huge jump. Again, he's going to have to file back in. We may see Cosmin Ionescu have a chance to go around him here as he'll catch him here in turn number 1, but the 24 will elect to go behind him in that splash and go Chevrolet. Looks like the Fallon and Mallon show up front has put Mallon back in 3rd. 4th, Brandon Hawken. 5th, Adam Kodal. 6th will be that beautiful Mountain Dew Chevrolet that Chad is running tonight. And there you see right behind them a little bit of a high side starting to form. It's going to be a new number for Brian Mercurio this season and a new manufacturer as well, as he switched over to the 18 Toyota camp. He's getting pushed by Kevin McAdams there in the bottom, or in the top side, but I think a lot of these guys who were active in our chat and watching this first duel get a little bit of an early scouting report of how this track works, how the draft works. And it looks like they took their notes and they're taking it well, as they all are electing to go to the bottom side of the racetrack.
Yep, similar to what we saw in the first race of duel number 1 here. A lot of guys are just comfortable with going to the bottom, but let's remember, it is it's very early in the race. We have 60 laps here to decide who the 14 drivers are that are going to transfer into the big show on Sunday next week on the 17th. So a lot of guys maybe just biding their time. It's a race of attrition at 60 laps here. You want to be there at the end. You can't win this race on lap 1, and you certainly can't put yourself into the transfer spot and actually secure the transfer spot on, lap 3 or lap 4 as we're speaking right now. So we've got a long ways to go. Guys are trying to feel out who they can work with, who they're comfortable with being around, and trying to put themselves in position to get there. And hopefully we'll see the outside line do that later on. And as we say that, looks like the 18 machine of Brian Mercurio is going to move up there with the 26 of Kevin McAdams, and that's the 67 of Andrew Schwartz there, back behind the 26, and they're going to try to get something going on the top side as well.
Well, while they're trying to get something going on the top side, where there's actually been 3 wide here at the back of the pack, all the way back here for 20th, you see the 70 car of Collette getting 3 wide there with the likes of McClintock, the 35 of Nicholson up there in the middle of a 3-wide battle right now in that Circle K Toyota. So these guys in the back of the field getting it mixed up, not being patient, at least here in the early going. Saw a little bit of a bobble there from Collette as well on the bottom. Looked like kind of hit the apron in turn 3 that last lap and caused a little bit of the separation that you see on your screen between the front pack and the back pack. But how about Brian Mercurio up there on the top side? He's got a little bit of help. It seems like if you can get about 5 or 6 cars line nose to tail, that's about as good as a pack. And you can see exactly why right there. There's 5 on the bottom, there's 6 on the top, and they're running right there with that bottom side led by Fallon.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about who you can get up there, and if you know how to work the line and you can keep your cars connected to one another, you're going to make the top side work. But you need some help from the bottom line, too. You need to have a little bit of separation between those cars down there. Right now, we see 5 cars lined up on the bottom, the 55 of Mike Fallon, the 24 of Cosmin Ionescu. I believe that is the 08 car. That is Tyler Mallon down there. Brandon Hawken in the 25 and Adam Kodal in the 33. Those guys all experienced plate racers and all experienced FTF racers. And they're showing that the bottom line can be dominant if you have the right guys down there. But don't count out Kevin McAdams up there pushing that number 18 machine of Brian Mercurio up on the top. They can get themselves up to the front. The 19 machine of Dylan Schwallenberg, he's another proven plate racer. He's up there on the top side as well. So I think we could pretty much have an even line here. If they can get up to the leader, that's where the top side is going to be able to be a little more dominant. But they have to get themselves up next to the 55 before you really start to see the move of the outside line and the power that it actually has up there.
Well, I think part of getting that top side working is not just the numbers, but also the quality of people that you have pushing up there, and really nobody better to be the pusher of that second line than the defending Verizon Cup Series champion Kevin McAdams, of course a two-time champion here at FTF. And he really knows a lot about how these cars work and how the draft is utilized. So, again, you can see him glued to the back bumper of the 18 of Mercurio. And despite the fact that you see a lot more numbers on the bottom side of the racetrack there for that top group, they're still holding steady there as Mercurio's still outside that Mountain Dew Chevrolet. They're running side by side, but really it's all headed by Kevin McAdams, Andrew Schwartz right behind him as well. All these guys in the top lane, they may not have the numbers, but they're definitely pushing each other with a little bit more cohesiveness than that bottom line right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just the strength in numbers at this point in the race. But hey, guys are going out there and they're doing it early enough to see, you know, what does the line have? What is it capable of doing? If we are able to get ourselves up to the leader, how long is it going to take us to get there? They're learning here early on in this race to figure out what needs to be done. And, you know, for a lot of these guys that make it into the 500, this is also a learning curve for them to kind of figure out what's going to be in store for the 500, and for the administration here, if they need to make any changes to the setup or the track setup combination, they have the ability to learn from the data that they collect here during the duels, because unlike previous years, Blake, the duels here have just been about max field size, which is what they expect to have in the 500 as well. So this is really great data collection that the league administrators have and the drivers have to, you know, kind of store in the memory bank as well going into next Sunday for the 500.
Oh, no doubt, and that's probably the most unique thing about running the duels out here at FTF is that typically, like you would see in the Cup Series, you have anywhere from 20 to 30 cars in your duel, but here at FTF with the large field size and everybody trying to jockey for position and get their way into the 500, you run upwards of about 40 drivers, so you really get to simulate what that race is going to be like and get out here for race conditions. Of course, all the testing that they've done over the offseason to try to perfect everything for this race. You have to remember, maybe only get 10, 15, 20 guys out here drafting at a time. I know the test we had was about 30 cars, but really once you get to that 40 mark, you really get to see how these cars will react, how people are thinking about what lines work, how to pinch people down on the bottom, things of that nature. So again, these guys just trying to feel it out, and again, they get a lot of information too by watching that first duel, so these guys in the second duel a little bit more prepared to try to go out and tackle this track. And again, you can see now the top side really starting to get the numbers. As now you see that 8 car, and we talked about it earlier, of Chad Misok there on the bottom side of the racetrack. If you don't have somebody behind you, it is really tough to suck up to that entire pack in front of you. You can see without somebody behind that 8 car is going to start losing ground. Mercurio has the option to go down there if he wants to, but I think he's going to stay with the guy who's got him there, and Kevin McAdams. And you know what, Joe? I'm going to go out and make my lap right now. So I'll hand the reins to the booth for you for a second, and who knows, maybe you'll see me kind of putt around on the apron for a lap here.
Something that you don't commonly hear. A broadcaster is going to run down from the broadcast booth and go jump into the seat of his race car and take it out there and turn a lap and do a start and park. Blake McCandless out there in the 166 machine, as you see him flash by the screen there, that Virtual Motorsports sponsored Dodge Challenger out there, putting down a lap and getting himself at least in position to try and get locked into the Daytona 500 based on owner's points if he needs to, or if he needs to fall to the last chance qualifier next week, he can do that as well. But while we let him do that, we'll take a look at the action on screen here. The 18 machine of Brian Mercurio starting to make a little bit of headway on that top side. He's pulled up to the door of the 33 of Adam Kodal, now making his way up towards that number 25 machine of Brandon Hawkins there. That number 26 machine of Kevin McAdams has not left the bumper of that 18 machine and pushing him masterfully around the track here with help from the 67 of Andrew Schwartz as well. Covering what I see in our YouTube chat here, though, is a great point that I have to agree with. FTF is one of the leagues that seems to display some of the coolest paint jobs in the sim racing community year after year, and that's in part to a lot of guys from Big Evil Racing, Splash and Go Designs with Cosmin Ionishu, and several other independent sim racing painters out there that, you know, collectively provide. So got to thank all the guys that are out there that help do that. If you paid attention to duel number 1, you saw the number 5 machine of David Day I have a similar car that is exactly the same in my number 6 Virtual Motorsports machine. That was painted by Cosman over at Splash and Go Graphics, so huge shout out to him for all the work that he does for a lot of us here at FTF and all the other individual painters. That's one of the cool things about FTF is all the varying degrees of paint schemes that you see out here, and it's really cool to see these populated all over the track here, and I think it's going to make for some really cool stuff. So hey, if you haven't looked at all the paint jobs, go check out the FTF Silly Season thread on their Facebook page, because usually when paint schemes are done and created, they're released there in that thread for everybody to see. So if you want to check it out, that's definitely the place to go do it. But in the meantime, while we wait for Blake to run himself back up here into the booth, we have completed lap 15, coming around to start lap 16 here in duel number 2 of the Do It for Dale duels at Daytona International Speedway. 18 machine starting to make a little more headway. Mike Fallon has led all 15 laps up to this point, however. Cosman Ioneshu, the number 24 machine, still all over his back bumper as well, but the high side line really starting to cover some ground here, and we're seeing this a lot earlier in duel number 2 than what we saw during duel number 1 as well. Took that outside lane a long time for it to actually form and get anywhere on duel number 1. But we've seen some cars kind of filter from the top back down to the bottom, and that's kind of hurting the momentum of the top side as we see, oh, cars around in the back. It looks like the 12 machine is around. Chain reaction collision in the back of the field. That's going to put us under our first caution of the evening here. Blake, I hope you're back in the booth by now. I got to get some work done up here and get us back and get the replay spooled up. So I hope you're back, Blake, but I'm going to throw it to you real quick, bud.
I've been back for a little bit. Of course, probably the worst thing you can do for a race car driver is get them out there and then tell them, well, you got to park it. But, you know, sometimes you got to pull the Dave Blaney move and do what's right for the team. And obviously just trying to get the owner's points into the 500. We'll see how it all shakes out. If not, you know, that's just the way it works out right there. Looks like while I was driving around out there, you really realize how many guys fallen off the pack. We had a pack of about 5 or 6 cars that were on the lead lap. But again, I think that's just a product. It is really hard to draft these cars if you don't have somebody behind you, and some of these guys that aren't used to that being the case can fall behind in the draft pretty easily, and all of a sudden, before you realize it, you think you're just kind of riding around. All of a sudden, that pack is getting further away before you lose the draft. But early on in this race, lap 16 of the 60 that will make up the Do It for Dale Duel 2, we experience our first caution flag of the evening, and we'll see if these guys, if Joe can get you the replay here in just a moment. I do have to issue an apology out there to Chad Mycos out there for mispronouncing his name, but I got it now, and threw me a curveball, but I think I got her right about now. So, Joe, you ready there with the replay?
Yes, sir, Blake. Sorry, we've had it on the screen for just a little bit while you were finishing up there, but we saw some contact with the number 54 machine of Nick Gunther that started that chain reaction. I believe that was with the 78 of Jeffrey McClintock is what it looked like, and that got everybody wadded up. Arnold Columbia in the 39s involved, the 212s of Jessica Shelton and Trey Coleman in the other 12 are both involved as well. The double zeros down there, the 79 of Nick Baker's in it, the 98. That's one of the slow cars that came up onto the track a little bit late. He's involved. The 92's involved. So a couple cars that were running towards the back were crunched up. It just looked like a chain reaction wreck that happened there, Blake, and that wadded up a bunch of cars. That's going to make it hard for some of these individuals to try and make their way into the Daytona FTF 500.
No doubt, Joe. You see a lot of competitive guys get taken out there early on, and again, some of the great paint schemes we've seen out there. Arnold Columbia is involved with that. Jessica Shelton, looks like the 00 of Zachary Stoltz got tagged in that as well. The 60 of Dejon Weeks, the 92 of Corey Williams, all guys that are involved in it. And another driver, Chris Hart. We know we've had some super speedway battles in the past with him. He's a guy that really likes to run out here and is really a master at these super speedways. We know he brings a lot of horsepower to the racetrack, and so it's unfortunate to see him get tagged up, and looks like he has a lot of rear damage on that 112 Pennzoil machine. But we look out front. Again, much of the same, not a whole lot going on at the front of this field. We've seen the same drivers leading up front there. It looks like the Mallon and Fallon show continues here. That's the Mike Fallon, not the Jimmy Fallon show, even though this is getting a little bit late at night here. But how about Dylan Schwallenberg running up there in the 3rd spot. Brandon Hawken, a guy that we covered, he actually won for the first time in VMN history over at, we were covering the Under Armour Cup Series over at Fast. He won at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway to get the first win on VMN. Maybe he has another one in him as well. And then you have kind of the old veterans, Brian Mercurio, Kevin McAdams, and Cosmin Ionescu here at FTF. And, of course, Ionescu, a Final Four driver last season. I think we'll rack them up and get the one to go here. Haven't heard from Race Control whether that will be the case or not. But it looks like we'll start. No, I think we're going to keep it single file. Maybe getting a what the splash happened review here and see what caused that wreck. Actually, nope, I'm wrong. We're going to double them up and we'll be set to go here shortly. So, Joe, I got to put the question to you. So we're about almost about 20 laps into this thing. You know what happened in that first duel where you were kind of able to sort yourself out at the beginning and then you see all that chaos. Where do you want to be right now? Do you want to be at the front of the field, or do you think you're a little bit safer here in the back, hoping that some of these guys up front have some issues?
I think, me personally, I want to still find myself towards the front of the pack. With how hard we've seen it is to actually pass here, I would much rather be at the front than in the back. Obviously, the back seems like the safer place to be when it comes to avoiding wrecks, but my philosophy has always been if you're at the front and in front of the wreck, you can't be involved in the wreck. So I think with those two combinations of how hard it's been to pass and where the wrecks have occurred and happened, I'd much rather be up towards the front and just try to avoid all of it altogether and keep myself inside that top 14 to hopefully transfer into the Daytona 500 as well. But looks like everybody's all stacked up and ready to go here, Blake, as well. Mike Fallon going to lead us to green once we get down to the trial area. Tyler Mallon, though, came down pit road. Not sure what the strategy is there with that one. We saw him running up towards the front of the field as well, but came down right before we got the one to go here. So I'm kind of interested to see how long it's going to take the 08 machine to try and get himself back up towards the front as well.
Yeah, we'll definitely see. Maybe they're at their pit window, but have to think that we may get a few yellow flags before we get started here. But out front, it's an Auto Parts Clash front row. You got Napa on the bottom and Advanced Auto Parts on the outside that will bring us to the green flag. It's going to be Mike Fallon in that top spot. He'll type in green. He'll put the throttle down. He'll get us underway here, but what a restart there from Schwallenberg there on the outside. Advanced Auto Parts looks like they may lose out on this one, but he got a great restart nonetheless. Brian Mercurio starting to pull up to the back of that 19, but right now it's Fallon who has that push into turn number 1, followed by Brandon Hawken and Cosmin Ionescu. Again, Ionescu in that Hawken win, he was right with Cosmin, or right with Brandon rather, the entire time. We were over at the Fast Under Armour Cup Series, but nevertheless, that bottom lane really getting moving right now is Adam Kodal. He'll come into the mix as well, and Mike Hose as well in that Mountain Dew Chevrolet. The top 5 all on the bottom, all working together, and it looks like that bottom side is really starting to form up. As we'll see Schwallenberg and Mercurio duck back down. Schwallenberg, he'll like to go back to the outside and duck back down inside. So now the top 10 are really electing to go to the bottom side here early on.
Yeah, there was really no help there for the outside line. The 18 machine of Brian Mercurio lost his drafting partner through pit stop cycles there. Kevin McAdams is relegated way outside the top 20 here. He's going to have to try and find his way back forward, but as we say that, it looks like it's just the 78 of Jeffrey McClintock and the 54 of Dylan Poteet that are out there. Or I'm sorry, the 54 of Nick Gunther. Poteet was in the last race. Out there just trying to work the outside line here, trying to get something going, but no one is dedicated to going up there just yet. It's all single file, 1 through 10 there down on the bottom, working their way, completing lap 20 of this 60-lap event here at the Daytona International Speedway.
You have to wonder here, and as a guy that's run here in the past at FTF at some of these super speedways, typically when you see these guys get all single file, and kind of like the Cup Series we saw earlier today, you usually see it work around that top side. I know in the past when we've run at the Talladega Super Speedway that you generally see guys line up single file and work it around the top side of the racetrack, but there's something about being on the bottom here that seems to be the way to go, and it really makes it hard to pull out of line. When you're on the top and running around single file, you at least think, oh, well, the bottom's the shorter way around. I can try to cut and maybe bring some people with me. But when everybody's stacked up on the bottom, it makes it that much harder to try and get out of line, go to the outside. And if somebody doesn't come with you, you're going to the back very, very quickly. But right now, I'm scrolling through the field. 23 cars all dancing single file in line there on the bottom. And right now, some of the guys that were in that first accident just trying to hang on, guys like Chris Hart, the 35 of Nicholson, Leal, Steve Verata there in the 3 car, the 012 of Jessica Shelton with some heavy rear end damage. Some of these guys just trying to hang on in the back of the field. Oh, but there's trouble. It's the 35 of Nicholson will go around. He'll hit the inside of the pit road wall. He'll slide back up here onto the tri-oval. Don't know if we've received the yellow flag yet. I believe we haven't. I think we're going to stay green. He's the only car involved, spun out. It looks like he hit a bad angle there. Some contact sent him to the inside of the pit road wall. He got some heavy damage out of that, but I think we are still under the green flag. And actually, scratch that. We are under the yellow flag.
Yep, yellow flag out on the speedway there for the accident off of turn 4. Give me just a second. Just searching for it here. Here's the 35. Get this populated up here on the screen. And as we are watching, see the number 35 machine there on the screen. There's the 12, the 15. We see a couple of these cars, Blake, that are just back there in the back of the pack, involved in earlier wrecks. You have to anticipate that some cars are going to be just a little bit slower than some of the other cars. That's going to cause some chain reaction accidents here. Looks like the 35 just gets into the back of the 15 of Sonny Tallman. That gets him out of shape down there onto the apron. And as he comes back up, I believe he just loses it. It looks like he's all by himself. Oh, no, there it is. Sonny Tallman gets up into the 17 machine up there on the top. That's going to send him back down into the 35, and he's going to go for a wild ride down here on the concrete into the inside barrier on pit road, and that's going to shoot him back up. Oh, roof flaps deploy. Does he get it back down on the ground on all 4 wheels? Hard impact into the inside wall there. It's going to ricochet him all the way through the grass, but I think he doesn't go end over end, so roof flaps deploying did their job there, Blake.
They certainly did. Kept him from turning over, but I believe the damage that he incurred there. Usually in NR 2003, you get a hard hit like that. Usually you think if you don't hit the hood, you may be able to live with some rear end damage, but if you hit it hard enough, it's going to affect the aerodynamics, the engines as well. So may be tough for that machine to get back going and going strong as we face our second Action Pack Tracks yellow flag of the evening. Visit apt2k3.weebly.com. That's apt2k3.weebly.com. Visit Action Pack Tracks. And we appreciate them sponsoring our yellow flag, the second yellow flag of our second Do It For Dale duels here at FTF, the Daytona International Speedway. A little bit more early action, a little more early drama. Wouldn't quite say implications yet, but a little bit of drama here at the beginning. I believe we actually have a new leader as we come back off of pit road. I think maybe it might be the 00 of Zachary Stoltz electing to stay out. He may resume the lead here. And yeah, it looks like he was one of the few cars to stay out onto the racetrack. So that Z's custom diecast Ford Mustang will be our new leader up here at the front of the field. So a decent strategy call here by Stoltz. It's really the first time we've seen the whole field come down and one guy stay out. Don't know how that's going to work on fuel mileage, but maybe taking the gamble thinking, hey, I have to get into the race somehow.
I wonder if, since you just gave Stoltz a big shout out for his custom diecast company, I wonder if he'd be willing to do us a VMN diecast, Blake. What do you think?
Oh man, I think we,
throw him on the spot. You think? Should we put him on the spot?
I don't know, man.
In front of 65 viewers on YouTube right now, I think we're putting him on the spot about it. What do you think,
we
chat?
just might. Let's see what the chat says. Of course, I'd love to see it, but of course, as we talk him up, I think he's going to make the lonely trek onto pit road. May actually be playing a little bit of a fuel game if he thinks the rest of the field is going to be short. Might as well get that extra lap in, not have to pace under the yellow. So good to see Stoltz there lead a lap, but I think that's going to be all she wrote for the time being, as we're on lap 25. Now the 60 to make up this event. Still a little bit to go. Actually, I'm kind of scrolling through some of these drivers. I just heard Steve Rada clutching the 52 of Oscar Ramos Jr. in his Vodafone Ford Mustang is clutching as well, and it's pretty quiet up here. I know some people were saying our engine sounds are loud, but I guarantee you we could turn the volume way up. You're not going to hear a lot of engines right now, so these guys definitely on the outside of their fuel mileage.
Very true. Very true. I like seeing the 98 machine up here, too. I'm interested to see what kind of strategy we got on out of Russell Canny as well. Saw him actually join the race a little bit late, Blake. He was one of the cars that was real slow up by the outside wall going through turns 1 and 2 when we were under green flag conditions. He's since put himself back onto the lead lap, I believe, and he's going to actually restart this race. Now, remember, FTF runs gentlemen's cautions here, so the race is always going to be under some sort of a green flag condition except for when the caution comes out, so it's not actually run and policed by game flags, which means drivers have to come in there, and when they get into the restart zone, they have to actually type it out in chat when we're going green, and it can be anywhere inside the restart zone. It can't be early and it can't be late. What kind of challenge do you think that poses for drivers that aren't used to doing that, especially when they're first-time drivers here at FTF like Canny is? You can see the orange rookie stripes on the back of that 98 machine, so this is his first time doing this. And I know we've had drivers that have had problems like that in the past, Blake. What do you think the overcoming challenge is for drivers like that when they come over to a league like this?
Well, you just have, it's pretty simple. You have to be very attentive, but also if you're that lead car, you have to make sure you go and type in the restart zone, else you're going to go to the back of the field and they're going to null that restart. But it looks like Caney able to handle that pressure up front. Actually, no, he's not. He's going to go to the infield, take a dive through the grass. I think it needs John Deere on the hood, but he's able to keep it going. We're going to stay under green flag conditions, but didn't look like he did it too pretty there. Actually, I believe something may be wrong, is now he's going to go around on the apron, spin it out, self-spin on the apron here. Looks like he may have either had a tire going down or just misshifted there on the apron, but he's crawling there 40 miles an hour in turn 1.
Do you think that qualifies as a broadcaster's curse, Blake?
Perhaps, and as soon as you say broadcaster's curse, Henry Nova is into the outside wall, including about 6, 7, 8 cars here in turns 3 and 4. It looks like it may have been the 35 or the 112. Can't really see is where that initiated here, but in turns 3 on the entrance, right on cue, the broadcaster's curse definitely collects some cars, and not to mention a double broadcaster's curse. Guess who's in it? Zachary Stoltz.
Oh, Lord, yeah. That is the definition of the broadcaster's curse. I believe that started with a 14. Let me double check real quick, Blake, here before we put this up. But I think there's no 14 there. Who is that? We'll go to the
Henry
12.
Nova looks like the 74 is where that may have initiated.
74 is probably who it was. Yeah, that's what it's looking like. Yeah, that's who it is. Okay, give me just a second. We'll put this up here in slow motion replay for all of our viewers at home to see. Get this thing slowed down. We're looking at the red car, the 74 of Henry Nova. He's right in front of that 12 Pennzoil machine there. As we go into the corner, I think there's a massive checkup. 74 getting off the gas to try and avoid getting into the back of the 60 machine. That sends him around. The 35 is going to get collected in that. There's Zachary Stoltz in the 00. We see the 08 of Tyler Mallon back there as well. He's going to be right in the middle of it. Red Bull machines back there. There's the 15 of Sonny Tallman. The number 70 machine is going to be involved in this one as well. So a lot of carnage in the back. There's the 17, the 5 machine down on the apron. I believe that is Randall Coleman in the 5, I believe, is who's running that this year. He's changing up numbers here over at FTF because his traditional numbers are actually taken by some of the drivers already over here. But a lot of carnage for these cars in the back, Blake, and that's just a chain reaction wreck. Guys kind of checking up to try and give room to other drivers, and this is the end result that we see. Not only do we have the double broadcaster's curse, but we're kind of seeing a similar thing to what we saw during the first duels where these guys were able to go green for the first 20 laps or so, but once we got everybody restacked and rebundled up together, we're having a tough time getting ourselves back into green flag conditions. We've seen 3 straight cautions now, so sense of urgency certainly picking up, but we still have over half of this race left to go, Blake.
Absolutely. Thanks for showing us what the splash happened. It looks like that originated around Chris Hart, who wasn't able to check up in time. But again, that was such a hard checkup. Can't really blame the back half of the pack there. There's a big checkup there on the bottom, and there's just nowhere for anybody to go. Can't blame one guy or the other, just, again, not reacting quite in time to avoid getting into each other. But like you said, Joe, our third action-packed track caution in just the last handful of laps here as these guys really trying to save fuel and kind of fight their way to the front. We see a lot of cars on pit road, so again, it looks like fuel coming into play here as well as the guys that stayed out, guys like Cosman Ionescu, Mike Fallon, guys that are running around on the apron right now, clutching their race cars to try and save as much gas as possible. So guys, worrying about pit strategy, and another thing that's coming up is that battle around that transfer spot seems to be yet again where everything is. It seems like up front, other than Michael Frisch going around in that first duel, we haven't really had any issues up front. It's just been those guys battling for 10th, 15th, 20th, feeling that pressure with that transfer spot looming ever so closely, even though we're not even halfway through this race yet.
Yeah, absolutely. There's still a lot of racing to go. We're just coming around to complete lap 29, so over halfway left in the race. And let's remember, we're going to have the ticker is showing a scheduled distance of 60 laps. Now we're going to have one lap after the scheduled conclusion of the race to make up the lap we had at the beginning of the race to get the field set up properly. So we still got a long ways to go nonetheless. Irregardless, we have over half of this race left before we can determine who the 14 finishers are that are going to transfer on into the Daytona 500 as well. So if you guys like what you're seeing, thank you so much for tuning into the Virtual Motorsports Network. Over 75 viewers for duel number 2 right now participating in the YouTube chat. We appreciate all the support for not only the Virtual Motorsports Network, but also the FTF Racing League and all their supporting sponsors that come out here and help us make this happen. Be sure to like our Facebook page, and subscribe to our YouTube page. If you're interested in possibly having your own league broadcasted, feel free to reach out either directly to our Facebook page, or you can reach out to myself, Joe Allen, or Blake McCandless about inquiries, and we'll see if maybe we can get your league broadcasted on the air here at the Virtual Motorsports Network.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, the Daytona 500 coming up next week. We're bringing the big guns, the big Podium Esports broadcaster, not defending FTF champion, but a champion nonetheless, not only on the track but in our hearts, David Shieldhouse, bringing in the big guns for the big event next weekend. It's sure to be a show that you don't want to forget, and it's going to be quite something to do. And looking out at Chad and the audience, just great to see all the support. Barely announced probably 2 or 3 hours before this race that we were even covering it, and to see all the viewership and support this broadcast is really quite something. We're very grateful and appreciate all of you tuning in to the Virtual Motorsports Network for your FTF action. And we'll see what the future holds as far as FTF goes, what other races we might cover. And of course, we know towards the end of the year that playoffs is always something that's looming large on everybody's minds. We'll see what's in the future for that, but right now we'll keep it here at Daytona and look out to that front row. It's not the Mallon and Fallon show anymore, is Ionescu and that Splash and Go Graphics Chevrolet will be leading us to the green flag. Again, some of the same guys we've been talking about all night. Chad Myco's right there in the 3rd spot, Adam Kodal in 4th, and how about Brian Mercurio? And then Joseph Weaver, he's crept up into the top 6. The lone Dodge Challenger there running up at the front. Right now, the green flag, as we enter the restart zone, it's going to be Ionescu putting the throttle down. The green flag is back out. We're on a lap 30, so we'll be halfway after this lap is completed. And right now, Ionescu in that entire bottom lane starting to form up quickly is just the top 2. It's Mike Fallon and Kodal, and nobody else behind them. Everybody fighting, clawing to get to that bottom side. And it looks like they're going to leave Mike Fallon out to dry, so the pole sitter of this race able to duck back down to the bottom. But you can see how quickly, Joe, everybody electing to go to that bottom side. We're off of turn 2 heading into turn 3. Nearly the whole field's already moved to the bottom of the racetrack.
Oh yeah, everybody already seeing that the top line just isn't the place to be right now unless you have the right combination of people out there to make it work. But I think we keep I saw it earlier in the chat, Blake, and I feel bad for doing it because I know we felt bad during the Fast Racing League race at Indianapolis as well, but I think it's Ionescu. Ionshu, I think is how you pronounce Cosman's last name. I don't think it's Ionishu. We've been corrected here. Now, if this is wrong again, I'm going to blame Chad on this one for throwing us under the bus, but I think it's Ionshu. I think it's how you pronounce his last name now, and we'll have to double check with Cosman after the race. I tried doing it once before, and I didn't get anywhere with it, so I may have to get him on TeamSpeak and ask him actually over voice on how he wants it pronounced on the air, but better nonetheless. We're trying to fix it at least. We're trying to be good broadcasters, right?
Well, if we're going to be good broadcasters, we'll go ahead and show you what happened to put us on our 4th Action Pack Tracks yellow flag here in a handful of laps, and it looks like everybody trying to get to the bottom of the racetrack so quickly off of these restarts is really what's causing the issue. You have a lot of random checkups coming throughout the field because everybody on that top side is just fighting tooth and nail to try to get down to the bottom, and it's the exact same thing that we saw earlier, a checkup going into turn 3, and it looks like Ryan Caney, Rango there in the 69, and a couple others, Schwallenberg, may have gotten the raw end of that deal in turn 3, and it'll put us under what's been yet another yellow flag in a duel that right now is just being mired by the yellow flag. So, Joe, what the splash happened on that one?
Well, it seems we timed it just right, as you said. Looks like the number 69 machine just gets some help from the number 98 of Caney right into the back of him going into turn 3. But as you said it, I mean, it's just checkups that are going down into turn 3. All these guys are doing whatever they can to get themselves down to the bottom line. We see drivers kind of getting out of the gas to just open up holes for people. Zach Rogers in the 3 is down there on the very bottom. Looks like he's barely going to skate by. Tyler Mallon in the 08's down there. There's the 39 of Columbia. Unfortunately, the number 19 machine is going to be involved in the middle of it. There's the 25 of Brandon Hawkins. He was one of the strong cars that we saw running up front earlier in the event. He's going to be mired in the middle of this as well. And I don't know if Brandon really has a lot of owner's points to fall on. He showed up towards the end of FTF last year in the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken, but I don't know where that's going to situate him in owner's points if he can't get himself back up into the top 14, but certainly damage is stuff that we're going to have to keep an eye on for a lot of these cars. We've seen more accidents here in duel number 2 than we saw in duel number 1, but it looks like it's the same cars that are involved in the majority of these wrecks because they've happened so far in the back of the pack where they have that. I almost feel like the top 14 really hasn't been all that involved in some of these accidents. And as we're here on this little awkward camera from the infield, you see Kevin McAdams and Jeffrey McClintock, 2 really good plate drivers, are back there as well. I don't think any of those guys had any damage from this previous accident, however.
Yeah, we'll just have to see if they can keep her green. We've seen guys be able to rebound and come back up and compete in that first duel. A couple guys that had some accidents early on were able to still repair their cars and be competitive enough to make it into the show. And I'm sure we're going to have to see that at some point tonight just because about the entire back half of the field in one form or another has been involved in a yellow flag at some point during this race. We're on lap 32 of 60 right now, so still quite a bit to go here tonight. 28 laps yet to be completed, and right now we're just trying to get to the end of this thing with all these cars running strong, and hopefully we see a competitive battle for that 14th spot. But we alluded to it in the pre-race for this second duel, Joe. Something unique that FTF has not done is they're going to have a last chance qualifier race. Once the 38 spots from the field have been determined by race control, we're going to have one last spot, and it's pretty simple. Be the first one back to the checkered flag after 20 laps, and you're the guy that's going to get into the show. So not only do you have to worry about these duels, if you didn't make it, you still have that last chance to come out the winner and be able to race your way into the 500 that takes place just after that. So talk about that, Joe. That's got to be quite something that we'll have to look forward to, and as a driver is something that's really nerve-wracking, yet it's pretty simple. If you're not first, you're last.
Yeah, absolutely. That is the win and you're in type of mentality that they're looking for, especially for a last chance qualifier race like that. And I believe if we heard right, that's going to be on Sunday right before the commencement of the 500, if I believe correct. So if that's the case, we may be able to get a little special pre-race presentation in here on the Virtual Motorsports Network. And who knows, maybe we'll broadcast the last chance qualifier, because that's sure to have a lot of action-packed racing for 20 laps in there to figure out who the lucky driver is that's going to be transferring into the 500 there later that evening.
definitely going to be a sight to see, and we have a sight to see right now. Hopefully some green flag racing coming up for us right now. Cosmin Ionescu running there in that first spot. Second's going to be Chad Mycos. Third, Brian Mercurio. Fourth, Mike Fallon. Fifth, Adam Kodal. Sixth, Andrew Schwartz. Seventh, Jeff Goodpaster. Eighth, Corey Williams. Ninth, Oscar Ramos Jr. And then 10th is going to be Nick Baker. 11th, Chris Hart. He's recovering well from the damage he's had. Zach Buchanan in 12th. Mallon is going to be in the 08 and 13th. 14th, Arnold Columbia. And then Nick Gunther will round out the top 15 here at Daytona. Of course, Gunther on the outside looking in that 15th position right now. Only a couple cars are retired from this event. It's going to be Andrew Fessler, and not talking in third person or anything, but Blake McCandless has also pulled off the track after one lap. So Cosmin Ionescu will have control of the field as we're into the restart zone. Green flag is in the air, and it's really been a theme that the leader has jumped out to a great start. Of course, you get the luxury of typing in when you want to go. Right now, though, Myco's hanging really strong with Cosmin right now. But again, that bottom lane just forms up so quickly that great restart is going to be nullified as Brian Mercurio has slowly marched his way up into the second spot, and Myco's will settle in there in the fourth position.
Yeah, Mike Fallon made a power move to get down in front of that number 33 machine of Adam Kodal to get himself established back onto the inside lane here. And same thing, it's one of those things with the way the track is set up right now, the driver combinations that are out there. A lot of the guys that are running inside the top 10 really have no sense of urgency to go back up to the top lane. They all are in a position that would transfer them into starting the 500s. So look, as I say that, the 033 blew up down the front stretch in a huge crack. Jeffrey Goodpaster looks like he blew his engine there going through the tri-oval, and calamity ensued afterwards. I'm going to throw it back to you, real Blake. We're going to get that replay up on the screen here.
Oh my God. That was huge. And of course, Joe, I'm sure you'll show us a replay, but unfortunately it looked like Goodpaster in that 033 Procore Chevrolet was running up here at the top of the field. He was in the 7th position in the tri-oval, and unfortunately that motor gave way, and there was just absolute chaos and pandemonium. And again, it's just an unfortunate break, not a driver error there, but just nowhere to go. And I can only imagine the photographs of these photographers around this racetrack are going to get, because it looks like a battlefield out here. It's just commenced here at the Daytona International Speedway just past pit road. I'm sure this is going to be a screenshot that will live on forever in the minds of FTF fans, but wow, what absolute carnage as the entire back half, or really back 3/4 of the field, is wrapped up in that one, Joe.
Yeah, as you can see on the screen here, we're following a collection of different cars there, but engine just let go halfway, going down into the tri-oval there, and Goodpaster tried to go down to the bottom and get out of the way, and then there was just nowhere for really anybody to go besides down to the apron, and calamity just ensued behind there, and it took out arguably half the field. I mean, if you look up towards the front, you can see the cars that are through the accident and the cars that are not through the accident, and it was a parking lot. It was a parking lot outside of the tri-oval, Blake.
It absolutely was, and I think we're going to have to do what the Cup Series broadcast had to do earlier, is tell you the cars that were not involved in that accident. Obviously, the 24 out front, Mercurio, Mike Fallon, Mycos, Adam Kodal, Andrew Schwartz, Corey Williams, Tyler Mallon in that 08, Nick Gunther, Steve Rada, Oscar Ramos Jr., Jeffrey McClintock, and well, that's it. Everybody else was involved in that accident. That tells you how large this accident was. A couple guys that had rebounded from some earlier trouble getting tagged up in that one, and it looks like as that engine expires on the Goodpaster machine, that's going to put him behind the wall, as well as Sonny Tallman, who will finish up in 36. Goodpaster will finish up in 35th and join the crew behind the wall. But just a real unfortunate circumstance there. You can't control when an engine gets let go, and when everybody's battling to get to that bottom side, and there's just not enough time for everybody to recognize it, check up, and be able to get out of the way. So another unfortunate circumstance there puts us under the Action Pack Tracks yellow flag once again. We're just hoping and praying that as we approach lap 37, that these last 23 or so laps can be run under the green flag.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that's what the race control is looking for as well, telling these guys, hey, you need to settle down. But unfortunately, that's just one of those deals where you really can't control an engine letting go. I mean, the only other thing that Jeffrey Goodpasser might have been able to do is pull completely off the racing surface down onto the apron rather than just going down to the yellow line and still holding up the inside line. But that's a split-second reaction that needs to occur. And when you're in the middle of a pack, I mean, there's really no good answer on what should and shouldn't be done. And it's just an unfortunate circumstance for a lot of the guys that were running in the back there. But, you know, the nice thing about what FTF is doing is they are running moderate damage. This isn't a realistic damage series. So some of the accidents that you've seen, if it was a realistic damage series, a lot of these cars would already be out of contention. But with it only being moderate damage, sure, are you going to be down on power, a couple horsepower? Yeah, absolutely, but it's not something that's going to completely take you out of contention. If you can get somebody that, you know, will ride behind you and you can put yourself into the middle of the pack, you may still find yourself inside the top 14 here, Blake, and still contend for a position to transfer into the Daytona 500 next Sunday.
Well, Joe, I think you know it better than anybody else how to compete and stay in a race when you have a little bit of damage on your race car at a super speedway. It earns you a trophy, or perhaps it didn't earn you a trophy back then, but nevertheless, you know, we know you were really competitive, and if you get the right amount of teammates behind you, you can still overcome some of that damage. It's just really, really difficult to do. Unless you have the help out there. And unfortunately, with just how these duels usually split out, it seems like you're never in a duel with your teammates somehow, and unfortunately that's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes. But again, we have them two abreast here in turn 3 at Daytona International Speedway. We're on lap 37. We'll be approaching lap 38 as these guys try to get some green flag racing here. For all the fans out there, and even for themselves, we haven't really talked about any of the transfers or any strategy right now because we're just trying to get under the green flag. We'll see once everybody looks like they'll dive down to the bottom of the racetrack again, assuming we stay with history here. But we'll see once again if that's the case, as Cosman will put us under the green flag once again. Mercurio gets a jump, but again will not have that help that he likely needs from behind by Maikos, as Maikos will dive down to the bottom and leave Mercurio all by himself. Already to turn 1, we have about the top 12 or 13 cars on the bottom, save for that 18 car, and of course 18 will pull back in line as well. So already off at turn 2, you can see how much people favor that bottom side, and it's a real shame. We saw Kevin McAdams and Mercurio really making some headway there on the top side, so it's not like that lane doesn't exist or isn't capable of running well. It's just for whatever reason you just never know how these things will work out, and right now everybody is really staying true to that yellow line.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a lot of give and take up here in the top 10. But as you say that, Jeffrey McClintock in the 78 and Kevin McAdams in that 26 have found their way back into the top 14 here. McAdams all over the bumper of the 78, trying to push him up past the transfer spot. That's held by the number 52 machine of Oscar Ramos. Actually, he's in the 11th position, so they're well inside the top 14 now. Zachary Stoltz in the 00. He is the one that holds the current transfer spot into the Daytona 500 right now. But, you know, Kevin making his way back forward. We saw him after the first pit stop. Got off sequence there, maybe got a penalty that relegated him to the back. I'm not sure what put him back there in the danger zone, as we'll call it, for, you know, the last 20 laps or so, because that's where the majority of the accidents have been. But he and Jeffrey have made their way back up there now, and they're knocking on the door of the 54 of Nick Gunther, trying to get and break themselves into the top 10. Gunther moves up in front of the 54. The 26 makes a brazen move down to the bottom, because that would have been a disastrous check up there. He's going to come up to the back bumper to the 3 machine. We'll see if Kevin tries to move his way back up to the top side and get in front of the 54, and that's exactly what he does. And it looks like Randall Coleman in the 5 is going to come with him as well, and see if they can continue to get something going on the top side here, Blake.
Well, I believe it was a pit road speeding penalty that put McAdams back there, but you really have to look at McAdams and think he kind of has, to kind of relate to real-life NASCAR, kind of that Dale Jr. effect on the field where you know Kevin McAdams is going to go to the front, so if he's going to go to the outside, well, he's a great partner to have. Might as well go with him, whether you're being pushed or you're going to get in behind that 26 car. So it's almost the quality of the driver that he is able to attract that attention and get everybody off that bottom side into the top side. And again, they saw it on our broadcast. They were able to make it work earlier. Can they do it again? And it looks like that 08 of Mallon is trying to make something happen there with McAdams right on his rear bumper, as now Mallon will work his way past the 3 of Steve Rada. They'll be side by side as they exit turn number 4, and Rada losing ground to that top 6 there on the bottom side. But right now that bottom, or that top side rather, is developing quite nicely. We have about 4 or 5 cars, which is exactly what you need as long as they're nose to tail to try to go up to the front of the pack.
Yeah, absolutely. And if they continue to work down towards the middle portion of the track like they're going to continue to gain ground on the inside line. Tyler Mallon trying to get the Mallon and Fallon show going again. Mike Fallon running up in the 2nd position. Got to wonder if they can get themselves up there. Do we see Brian Mercurio, who was one of the drivers that utilized the top side earlier in the event? Do we see him move that number 18 Toyota Camry back up to the top side as well? Do we see the 8 of Chad Mikos try to get himself back up there as well? Because we saw him utilizing the top side. What do you think Adam Kodal does, the driver running in 5th? A lot of these guys that are inside the top 14 want to ride because they know that they're already basically locked into the 500 pretty safely, especially ones that are in the top 5. But does that mean that you're just content with riding, Blake? Or if you're a guy like Adam Kodal running in the 5th position, do you want to go up there and win the duel race to say that you did it?
Well, I won a duel last race, or last year rather, and hardly it was just because of luck, but also, you know, you're out there, you want to make sure that obviously you're a racer, you're going to go after any position you can, but also if the strategy works out to where you can go for a win, if you're on that last lap and in the top 5, you're thinking, well, I got a pretty good shot here, might as well go after it. So it really just depends on where you are right now. If you're in the top 5, maybe you're kind of content with where you are, but if you're anywhere from 10th, and obviously if you're out of the race, you're going to try to make something happen. As right now, we were talking about that top side and how much headway it's making, but right now, McAdams is an anchor through this field as he'll drop to the back and have to drop back down to the inside lane. Every single car is single file except for McClintock, who will poke out to the outside of Arnold Columbia, who's getting a little bit of bump draft there in the corner, still able to keep it steady. But again, you're going to have to start watching this battle for 14th. Everybody else may be single file, but I can guarantee that any of these guys running around the 14th position, which at the current time is that 26 of McAdams, everybody's going to start getting a little bit dicey here as we approach inside the last 15 laps.
Yeah, we saw the 39 of Arnold Columbia get a shove from the 17 of Ediver Leal. He's been all over the back bumper. That's going to push the 39 into the transfer spot. Now, Kevin McAdams, all these cars single file behind him down on the bottom. That's going to probably freight train him all the way to the back unless he can find a hole somewhere to try and get that 26 machine back down, Blake. And it's going to be tough for him to try and work his way back up there. He's lost all but all of his drafting partners. He was working really well with the 78 of Jeffrey McClintock. Well, McClintock's running up here in the 12th position. So McAdams is going to have a really tough time trying to get himself back up there, especially with a lot of these cars that are damaged running back here towards the rear of the field from the collection of accidents that we've had here so far in duel number 2.
Yeah, it's just really tough there. Everybody's committed to one line. It's just, when is everybody going to step out of line and try to make something happen? Again, right now, Arnold Columbia holding steady to that 14th spot, almost running on the yellow line. I believe that 39 has some damage because that 17 machine of Leal is able to pull up to him relatively easy, and you see all that distance between the 39 and the 79 of Nick Baker holding on to 13th. I believe there's some damage that the 39 has accrued, and that's why that 17 is able to get such a good push up to him. You obviously see him and Stoltz may be committed to go around him, and that's exactly right. The 39 does not have the speed in the corners that some of these guys have, and that 17, Whoa, that was really close to 39, throwing a vicious block there on Leal. And that about sent Leal into the outside wall, so I guarantee that's what they're trying to do is get around Columbia. But obviously if Columbia has damage and knows this is his shot to the 500, why would you let anybody by? You're going to throw a block.
Absolutely. Even though we're not inside 10 to go, I'm not sure what the rules package says here for the duels. Normally, it's inside 10 to goes when blocking is allowed. Now, FTF is known for doing things differently, so that may not very well be the case here as well. But, you know, going along with Arnold Columbia having damage, I remember from the multitude of replays we've showed tonight from the accidents in duel number 2, that 39, I think, has been in just about every accident, so I wouldn't be surprised. But you see him hook that car all the way down to the yellow line, and he moves up there. He's actually making contact with the 17, trying to hang him out there on the top side. That's going to open the door for the 0-0. Those two drivers really getting after it with one another. And, you know, Columbia, like you said, he's doing everything he needs to do right now. He's in that final transfer spot. He probably has damage. I'm sure the competitors around him know that he has damage, and they're going to try to do everything they can to get around him, but he's not going to make it easy. And you saw it on the backstretch there that, you know, these drivers are going to be willing to do just about anything they have to do to transfer themselves into the Daytona 500, Blake.
Well, you saw Columbia taking some swipes almost at Leal right there. It's almost if, well, if you're going to get around me, I may just have to wreck you if you think you're going to pass me. So it's just going to depend when these guys can get a good run on the 39. A big check up there on the back straightaway. Everybody will stay single file. Actually, no, we'll have an accident in the back of the field. The 73 is around into the outside wall. We may stay green. Actually, there's some more carnage there in the back of the field. That will put us under the caution flag. And that's going to set up something really interesting here with 10 laps to go. You have just a couple of cars around that 20th spot that all just wrecked, so obviously they're a little bit behind. You get them stacked back up, but this is really going to create something interesting here. We're going to put them two abreast again, so you're going to have some guys on that high line, so may not necessarily see everybody go back down to the bottom like we've seen the entire race. You may see some guys try to make it work on that top side, maybe even split the middle 3 wide to try to get to that 14th position, but right now it's in the clutches of Arnold Columbia. So, Joe, tell us what the splash happened on that one.
Yeah, it looks like the 74 of Henry Nova just really checking up to avoid getting into the back of that number 12 Miller Lite machine, and that just stacked up the field. The 73s back there, the 89 machines involved. As we back the camera up here, that's where the rest of the action happened. Kevin McAdams was hard on the brake, trying to avoid any further contact. The 05 was on the brakes there too. Collects Kevin again. Wow, Kevin just a pinball in that accident. Unfortunate for him. He's going to collect some serious damage as he rolls up into the outside safer barrier here as well. So I thought maybe after the original contact had occurred that we were going to be able to save it and keep going. It was just a chain reaction. When you start mixing in damaged cars in between fast cars with no damage, Blake, this is kind of the end result that you see, especially here at a super speedway when everybody's fighting for the same real estate.
Absolutely. We'll see how that'll affect Kevin McAdams' chances here to try to get in. Obviously, right now he sits 11th in owners' points after last season, was 16th on the qualifying grid, and is a past champion. So it's all but guaranteed into the race, especially because no former champions other than Taylor Morgans are trying to get in the race, and he's already sitting on the pole. So McAdams, by virtue of that, is locked into the race. Just a matter of whether he'll start up front or start in the back. Again, right now we have all those guys that finished up in that first duel locked into the race. Again, these guys trying to join them for the 500 next week. But right now it looks like I hate to try to predict things to a T and maybe call people out, but it looks like we were saying earlier, Arnold Columbia is going to do whatever it takes to hold on to that 14th spot, and there's a couple possibilities there that may not be good for the guys behind him about what he may be willing to do to stay in that 14th spot.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? We're inside 10 laps to go now, Blake, so all bets are off at this point in the race. Everybody, you know, obviously people like Kevin McAdams, he's pretty much safe into getting himself into the 500 when he falls on owner's points. But you don't always want to, you don't want to have to fall back on your owner's points. You would rather just race your way in and know that you're in the show and not have to worry about the last chance qualifier, not have to worry about your owner's points and trying to determine whether or not you're going to make the race or not. So hey, you know what? Arnold Columbia in that 39 machine, he's a proven, winner when it comes to this sim, and he's going to go out there and do what he has to do to get himself into contention to stay there. So he's going to line up on the outside in the 14th position here, and I would imagine the majority of these drivers, like we've seen on every other restart, are going to do what they need to do to get themselves back down onto the bottom of the speedway. And it's going to be crazy. Inside 10 laps to go, the intensity, if it wasn't there before, it's certainly going to be there now.
Oh, no doubt, and we'll see what these drivers are capable of. Again, the best in the NR 2003 community right here on display for all the fans we have out here. A great turnout tonight, both on the track and here in the audience here on YouTube. But we'll see Cosman. He puts the throttle down, green flag in the air. We approach lap 52 of 60 as we now have 9 laps to go. But again, out front, everybody getting single file, but you can see behind them around that 14th spot, everybody's still 2 abreast. Oscar Ramos there leading that inside line. Oh, in trouble! Zachary Stoltz looks like he just got into Leal. He'll come up off the bottom. There's about 7, 8, 9 cars here at the exit of turn number 2, and we'll see that action-packed tracks caution once again. It looks like it was just Stoltz moving up off the bottom line, at least from what I could see from my initial viewing of the accident. Not sure, or actually, I believe it was a right front tire that went down. So quite a development here. It looks like that car just veered to the right and there was no stopping it. But Joe, on our What the Splash Happened replay review, I think that is what we're going to find. A right front tire on the 0-0 machine is what caused that accident.
Yeah, we're going to take a look right now. Replay just going up, and coincidentally, the 17 of Ediver Leal is going to be involved in this one as well. Yeah, it looks like the car just takes I don't even know. You saw the bounce in the track there, like he blew the right front tire, and he just went straight up into the 17. I don't know, Blake. That's I've never seen, a random tire failure in this simulation before. Usually you have an indication if you pay attention to your tire wear that something like that may occur, but I've never seen a random failure before. Now, that doesn't mean that it can't happen. I could be very wrong here, but calamity ensued on the restart there to boot. That is a huge accident, taking out multiple cars in the rear of the field as well. And that's not the first time we've seen something like this. And unfortunately, that just that's going to ruin a lot of people's nights. And that was right up around for the transfer spot as well to boot.
Yeah, that's a real unfortunate thing. I guess the fortunate thing about being in NR 2003 and being able to go back through our replay system and review everything is be able to see whether the 00 elected to take tires on any of his previous pit stops. And we may have to get back to you there in a second, Joe, because I would like to see. It looks like on lap 29 he put on 4 tires. But also, you got to think if he's been in any accident since then, especially if he's locking up those tires after some spins, that's obviously going to be a big deal and put some wear on those tires. And it looks like that is what may have done it. Some damage to that right front tire after locking it up from the previous accidents was enough wear to flatten it while he was driving into turns 1 and 2. So something we do not see very often, but nevertheless has a big impact on this race as now we approach 6 to go. The right front Goodyear Eagle of Zachary Stoltz causes a big one here at Daytona.
Yeah, right front tire going down. We're hearing from some inner team channel communication from a few of our audience members saying that it was in fact a tire that went down. There was the concern that possibly it might have been a computer, Windows pop up or something like that, but driver himself is saying that he did have a tire go down. So that begs the next question, when did he last take tires? We've had a lot of accidents that a lot of cars have been involved. Did he come down and replace tires at all? If he had spun in previous accidents, was he paying attention to the tire wear? Was his crew chief paying attention to it? Yeah, those are all answers that people are going to ask, because it's, especially in this sim, Blake, it's very rare that you see somebody actually under green flag conditions lose a right front tire, and we see some people getting into it. Looks like the 12 car there in the rear of the field, and the 17 of Ediver Leal. Some banging going on down there at the rear of the field as well right now, Blake. Some tempers are flaring. Just about 6 laps to go here, and people they're getting angry with one another.
Yeah, they certainly are. I was looking at that. It looks like Trey Coleman and Looks like, yeah, that 17 car there of Leal. Something happened there that Coleman obviously didn't really like, and I think you can even see the driver that was up next to him, Brandon Hawkin, as well, didn't really like what the 17 had done. Not really sure. Maybe sometime during this yellow, maybe I could just back up and go view if there was something leading up to that. But yeah, temps are flaring. We're going to come to 5 to go here on this restart, so no doubt these guys are starting to get antsy here at the end of this race.
Yep, people are getting antsy. We're going to come down here and start 5 laps to go here in duel number 2 of the Do It for Dale. Yeah, the Do It for Dale duels. It's been a long night, as you can tell, everybody. Yeah. But Cosman Ionescu in the 24 is going to get us back under green flag conditions here. Mike Fallon in the 55. Not as good as a restart, but he's going to move himself down in front of the number 18 machine. We see the 8 of Chad Mikoso. He's going to move himself down in front of the 33 machine of Adam Kodal. And looks like everybody's kind of stacking up behind him as well, Blake.
Yeah, they certainly are all jockeying for position. They know that these are the last couple of laps for their opportunity to try to get into the FTF 2019 Daytona 500. Right now, you see right where that battle is, around the 39 of Arnold Columbia, is where it's all taking place right now. Zach Buchanan trying to make something happen on the outside, but again, just too much help, too much draft in that bottom lane, and now Columbia will start to pull away, and Buchanan, along with the rest of that high side, Kevin McAdams will leave Buchanan out to dry on the top side. Here we approach lap 56, 5 to go is what the count is right now. Buchanan able to get down to the bottom, but right now everybody looking at that plain gray Dodge Challenger of Corey Williams. That is the last transfer spot into the 500. Believe we may have had some contact or somebody go around on the front straightaway. We stay under green. Saw some smoke up there, so I think something may have happened, but no call from race control that is going to result in a yellow flag. Again, right now, that 14th spot, Corey Williams has it. Zach Buchanan and Kevin McAdams is right behind him. McAdams trying to poke out to the outside. But again, there's just nothing doing, not enough help right behind McAdams. There's a bit of a gap there back to Weeks, who's still recovering from some earlier accidents. So as we continue to wind down the laps, 3 to go, McAdams trying to make something happen. Will somebody poke out of line?
Time will only tell here, Blake. 3 laps to go. The 92 machine of Corey Williams currently holds that transfer spot. All single file up 13th through the leader to Cosman Ionescu in that number 24 machine, but we see some cars a little bit deeper than that 14th position, kind of jockeying around. Kevin McAdams is trying to tell the 4, he's like, hey, go up here, I'll go with you, or I'll just do it myself. Trying to get a run on the 4 of Zach Buchanan, trying to make something work here to get a little bit of action going for the transfer spot. Got to wonder if the 92 just sticks down to the bottom or if he tries to throw a block on that outside lane and tries to secure the position that he's currently in. 2 laps to go, Blake, here to decide the 14 drivers who will be transferring on into the FTF Daytona 500.
Absolutely. Again, another reminder, the point of no return has been reached, so whatever happens from here on out, we will stay green flag here to the end of it. When will somebody poke out of line? Looks like Columbia might get shuffled out, but he's going to fall back in line. Everybody running single file. Who's going to be brave enough to try and take advantage of something, try to get into the Daytona 500? Right now, it's the 92 of Corey Williams that we're watching as the white flag presented by the Independent Sim Racing Association will be shown to Cosman Ionescu. Nobody at the front of the pack really looking to do anything, but we'll take a look back to that 92 car as he holds down that final transfer spot. He's looking, he has a mirror full of the 4 of the JBL Toyota of Zachary Buchanan. Buchanan not able to really make something happen. McAdams has a bit of a run, but now we look up front. Ionescu, he's lost the lead. Mike Fallon has made a charge to the front with Mercurio, and Miko's right behind him. Fallon, he started up front, lost it a little bit early on, but will Mikey be able to hang on? He's going to go out in turn 4. Mercurio to the bottom. Fallon's going to be able to block him. He'll win the Do It for Dale second duel of the night. Mike Fallon in that Napa Chevrolet or Toyota doing it the right way and puts DEI in victory lane. But right now we're going to look at the standings. Unofficially, that 14th spot is going to go to that 92 Dodge of Corey Williams.
I believe the 92, you are right. Now, remember, standings that are showing on screen are going to be a little off because we did run one lap past the scheduled distance of the race here to make up for the lap we had earlier to set the field. But with that being said, I believe the 92 did, in fact, hang on to the 14th position transfer spot. But I can't believe it. Mike Fallon and the Toyota crew, they all pulled out on the 24 of Cosman Ionescu and basically moved around him and went on to win the race. What a hell of a move down the back straightaway there to take the win, Blake. But what a finish to end duel number 2 here. That was plagued by a lot of cautions in the second half of the race, but to come back and have a spectacular finish like that, that was awesome, and I'm sure the fans enjoyed that a lot as well.
And actually, Joe, we have some developments here because Mike Fallon sat on the second or sitting in the second spot, sitting on the front row for the Daytona 500. We actually have to remind our viewers and ourselves out there, apparently, that the top 15 transfer rather than the top 14. So not only does Corey Williams join the 4th edition of FTF's Great American Race, it's going to be Zachary Buchanan in the 4 car, who holds on to that 15th spot, holding off Kevin McAdams, who will get that automatic transfer in as well. So the defending FTF Cup Series champion, not able to get it done in the duels, he'll have to go to provisionals to be able to get into the race. We'll give you a full race rundown before I'm sure we'll have Justin Malillo join us up here in the booth in a couple of minutes to give you the official lineup of who made the 2019 FTF Daytona 500. Mike Fallon took down the win with Brian Mercurio in a close second. Chad Mikos in third. Adam Kodal fourth. Cosman Ionescu fifth. Andrew Schwartz sixth. How about that 0-8 of Malin recovering for a 7th place finish? Steve Rada 8th, Jeffrey McClintock in 9th. Randall Coleman will round out the top 10. Nick Baker in 11th, Arnold Columbia 12th, Henry Nova 13th, Corey Williams 14th, and unofficially Zachary Buchanan in 15th, holding down the final transfer spot. Kevin McAdams in 16th. Dejan Weeks finishes in 17th. Dylan Schwallenberg 18th. Ryan Collette in 19th. And 20th is Trey Coleman. 21st, Oscar Ramos Jr. 22nd, Joseph Weaver. 23rd will be the 05 of Fitzwater. That's Jonathan Fitzwater. 24th, Chris Hartefelax. 25th, Jessica Shelton. 26th will be the 17 car of Ediver Lee. 27th, Brandon Hawken. 28th will be the 87 car. That is Brad Burke. 29th will be the 69 of Johan Orengo. 30th will be Zachary Stoltz. 31st will be the 89 car Vincenzo Fozzato, and I know I totally butchered that. I'll have to ask after this one what that pronunciation is before the last chance qualifier. 32nd, Nick Gunther. 33rd, one lap down, will be the 35 of Brandon Nicholson. And then the cars that did not see the checkered flag in here, 34th, will be the 98 of Russell Caney. 35th, Jeff Goodpaster. 36th, Sonny Talman. 37th will be the 45 of Andrew Fessler. And then 38th, rounding out the back of this field, Blake McCandless. So that'll do it for us here in this second duel, although we invite you to stay tuned with us, as shortly we will be joined by the head admin here at FTF, kind of the director of operations, if you will, Justin Malillo, as he'll get us set to go about whether we could set the lineup officially for the 2019 edition of the FTF Daytona 500. But Joe, I believe we can go ahead and talk to our first winner of the evening. We can get Kyle Riley here in the booth for just a second. Kyle, this is Blake McCandless in the VMN booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir.
Sorry to kind of pull you here last minute. I know you're doing a lot of important things as you've taken on a new admin role this season, but just wanted to kind of ask you about that first duel, how it went for you, and it seemed like you guys had a good plan coming in.
Yeah, we knew we wanted to be aggressive in the duel. I only had one teammate there. I had Noah Carmichael with me there. So the plan the whole night was just link up at some point and work as hard as we can to get to the front and just do what it took to stay up there. And thankfully, we were working together really well. We got to the front, and nobody really was too aggressive because they wanted to all make the show. And I was able to hold off, and it was really good.
That's what it looked like there. Everybody up front was kind of content. Obviously, as a racer, you're never content to quite just ride around up there. But obviously, with just being able to make it into the show, that's the big goal, and it looks like that's what you were able to do. So, came out, qualified 13th, put down a nice 7.73 lap, beat me. So, gonna have to hand you to that. So, what are you looking forward to for the 500? Anything that you learned tonight that you think will help you going forward?
Well, I think it's going to be really interesting to see what some of the new drivers can do. I didn't look at the final results, obviously. I don't know who's in the field and who isn't. But chances are we're going to see some new faces in the field this time. And they're kind of unpredictable. Let's face it, we don't know how they're going to drive. I think a lot of them are really good, but we don't really know what to expect. So I think that's going to be really interesting. It's going to make for a fun race next weekend. And I can't wait.
Absolutely, Kyle. Well, we'll go ahead and give you the microphone. Go ahead and give a shout out to really the big audience that we've seen turn out tonight. The floor's all yours.
Well, like you said, I'll give a shout out to everybody watching. I do appreciate it as one of the admins. We want as many eyes on the series as we can, and I'd like to thank you all for showing up. And also give a shout out to all the Macaroni Salad family, both teams. I think we got everybody in the show, but it depends on owners' points and stuff. But I think we're all going to be okay, so that's great.
Well, that's what it's all about, helping the team out and try to get them all in the Daytona 500. There's the winner of your first duel of the night, Kyle Riley. And Joe, I believe it's you who has caught up with the guy that just emerged victorious in our second duel. That's the number 55 of Mike Fallon.
Yes, sir. I have caught up with our winner of duel number 2, Mike Fallon, in that number 55 Napa Toyota Camry. Mike, looked like it was quite an interesting race. You guys were able to go green for about 20 laps to start the thing, and then we had a couple cautions that slowed us down for the next 30 or so before we got to run it out for the last 10. And you made a heck of a move with some help from, you know, the number 2 machine, or the second place machine there. The 18, I believe, is who it was that pushed you around him to get up past Cosman and go and win the race. And you already had yourself locked in with your outside pole time lap here in qualifying, so none the better than to go out and actually win the thing as well. Tell us about your race.
It was pretty tame for the most part, because strategy for me was to try to, if not win the race, then try to be able to help my teammate and our alliance team to try to make sure we all got in the top 15 so we all would make it. But once we were all in the top 10, we were just pretty much riding conservative on the bottom. Every restart was just kind of a game of getting to the bottom, and I knew the 18 was most likely going to go with me. I was just hoping everyone behind him would too, and not try to just stick to the bottom to not lose spots. But luckily, I timed the run pretty good coming off of 2, and everyone seemed to go with me, so that was good. And coming off of 4, I knew he was going to try to dart low, so I had to anticipate that and make it before him so I didn't hook him. And luckily that worked out and didn't end up with people wrecking, so I'm definitely satisfied with being able to get the team's first win in about 6 months.
Yeah, absolutely. To come out and put yourself on the outside pole and then take away one of the dual wins, that's I'd say that's a successful night here. And you know, you said it right. Wasn't sure how many guys were going to go with you if you did poke out a line with the risk of losing too many spots here out of the duel, but it looked like just about everybody from 2nd back to 6th or 7th actually went with you, and they left Cosman in the 24 basically all by himself down the back straightaway, and then it was just a matter of fending off the charges from behind coming to the checkered flag. So congratulations on taking down the second win, we'll call it, of the year at FTF and duel number 2 here at Daytona International Speedway. And what are you most looking forward to for the Daytona 500 next week on Sunday? What do you think the race is going to be like? Do you think it's going to be a race of, you know, attrition? Are we hoping for green flag runs? I know this is the first time that FTF in a long time has done a full 500-mile race here. So if the duels are any indication, you know, the bottom line seemed like it was pretty tough to beat here tonight. Do you think that we'll see more of the same on Sunday next week, or do you think we'll see some 2x2 action?
You'll definitely see 2x2 next week. It's just going to be later on, because that is the first 500-mile race that they've done in quite a while. So, I mean, it's going to be attrition for the most part, trying to stay out of trouble for the first 400 miles before they start making moves. But once we get down the last, 40, 50 laps, they'll probably be going 3x3 all the way back. And at that point, it's any lane will have the advantage. It's not going to be bottom dominant, I don't think. So it's basically just going to try to stay out of trouble for the first 3/4 of the race, and then try to go for it at the end and not get caught up in the huge one that usually happens in the last 5 laps.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If FTF is notorious for anything, it's the last lap spectacular crashes that we've seen at Daytona here in the past. But Mike, I'm going to give you the microphone one more time. If you have any sponsors, friends, family, anybody that may watch this interview back over the next couple of weeks, the floor is all yours. Go ahead and give a shout out to whoever you'd like to thank that helped you get here.
Well, Napa's been with me since 2012, so, obviously got to thank them for coming back aboard, and everyone watching. I got family watching and teammates watching, so thank you all, and thank you to Brian and everyone pushing him to get me past the 24, and thank you to Cosman for not blocking me into the wall and wrecking like it's happened several times in the past, because NR is real finicky when it comes to blocking late. So just happy that that worked out and didn't cause a wreck. So because winning with a wreck, if it happens, isn't fun if it might be on you. So just glad everything worked out in our favor.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations once again, Mike, on taking down the win in duel number 2 here from all of us at the Virtual Motorsports Network. And we look forward to seeing you next week on Sunday night for the FTF Daytona 500.
Thank you. See you then.
All right, Blake. Well, it looks like we are ready. We're going to drag in head administrator here at FTF, Justin Malillo, Blake, and I'm going to give it back to you. I think Justin's got some information for next Sunday, as well as a preliminary lineup for the 28 drivers that are going to be transferring over to the Daytona 500 on Sunday, and maybe provisionals. I don't know if he's gone through provisionals yet, so I'll throw you on the spot now, Justin.
Yeah, hey. Justin, did I make it in? That's the big question everybody's wondering. Did I make it in?
No.
Darn.
Yeah, you had a good run out there for the one lap that you putted around. I got a chuckle out of that one.
Well, it's good, but well, even though I may not be in the race for the 3rd straight year, how about you tell us who did make it?
Well, I've got the full starting lineup. Sans the LCQ, because we'll find that out next week. But I have the top 38 positions of the 39 car field for you. Starting on the front row, we already knew that from the Z's promotion poll day, and that would be Taylor Morgans and Mike Fallon. Starting in row 2, we're going to have Kyle Riley, tonight's first Do It For Dale duel winner. He'll start 3rd, and Brian Mercurio will be outside in 4th. Davey Hazard will be starting in 5th in the 30 car, and Chad Mikos will be starting 6th in the 8 car. In row number 4, you're going to have the 53 of Justin Malillo in 7th, and Adam Kodal will be starting 8th in the 33 car. Noah Carmichael is going to now start in 9th position, and Cosmin Ionishu is going to start in 10th. Matt Watkins gets... Excuse me there. Matt Watkins gets the 11th starting position. Andrew Schwartz gets 12th. Doug Lockrow will start in 13th, while Tyler Mallon will start alongside in 14th. Nathan Kiani will be 15th. Steve Rada is 16th. Zach Rogers 17th. Jeffrey McClintock 18th. Joey Bailey will start in 19th, and Randall Coleman will be 20th. Now these are, by the way, all from the duels, the finishing order. 21st is going to be Matt Muir. 22nd is Nick Baker. 23rd is going to be Dante Ricky. 24th, Arnold Columbia. 25th will be Tristan Allen. 26th, Henry Nova. 27th, Michael Frisch. 28th, Corey Williams. 29th, David Alvarez. And the final person to make it in through the second duel is the number 4 of Zach Buchanan. Now, what we did to determine that was we had the top 14 finishers in each duel, but in both duels, the pole sitters ended up finishing in the top 14, so we then went to the 15th place finisher. I heard you guys talking about that, and I just wanted to clear that up for all the viewers out there. So that's how Alvarez and Buchanan both made it in by their 15th place finishes. Going down the list now, we go into the 3 drivers that make it in via their qualifying times. These 3 drivers didn't make it in through their duel, but they had a good enough qualifying time to be able to advance. And that is the 71 of Chris Wetz, the 45 of Andrew Fessler, and the 15 of Sonny Tallman. And then the 5 drivers that make it in via either owner points, by sponsorship, or by their past championship. We have Jake Poulin, who will start 34th. He was first in owners points. Sean Fay, he will start 35th. He was 6th in owners points. 36th will be Nick Gunther. He was 9th in owners points. 37th will be the 37 of Ryan Naraki. He was the sponsor for the race. And 38th will be the 26 of Kevin McAdams. He's the defending champion at FTF.
All right, so there you have it, the 38 drivers who are already locked into the show. Of course, we have the last chance qualifier coming up next week. for that one lucky driver that finishes the front out of what's going to be a very desperate field to try to get in. So that's definitely something that I think we're all excited about. I'm sure you are, Justin. A great addition to Christian McCaffrey Speed Weeks. But we had a great night tonight, and I'm sure you're happy with that.
Yeah, definitely. We had two pretty, they were exciting in their own way, I'd say. Unfortunately, a lot of people in the front didn't really want to race, myself included. A lot of us felt like we were pretty safe in our position to make the race, which didn't really make for too exciting of a show for the top 6 or 7 positions. I know there was that one incident in my duel where the leaders took themselves out, and that kind of spiced things up for a little bit. But a lot of people just wanted to stay in line, and that's understandable for the duels. And there were some action spots here and there, more near the middle to the back. But I'm really looking forward to the LCQ next weekend. We've got, a list of incredible names here that are going to be, racing for that one transfer spot. We've got guys like David Day, Brandon Hawkin, Dylan Smith, all proven winners and, great talents that are out there. And we've got, it's going to be a full field of action. I mean, we have that essentially, since 76 people qualified and 38 people are already locked in, the LCQ can have up to 38 people racing next week in a 20-lap go or go home.
Well, that's going to be pretty exciting. Can't wait to either watch from the booth, or who knows, maybe even take a spin out there and complete more than one lap. We'll have to see there next week. But thanks for joining us, Justin, and we'll look forward to the rest of this week, and obviously the last chance qualifier, followed by what's going to be a very hopefully long and exciting evening with the Daytona 500.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys for putting this on. Really appreciate everything you guys do, and I'm really looking forward to next weekend.
Absolutely, we are too. Well, that's the head administrator of FTF, Justin Melillo, and Joe. That about wrap things up here for tonight. We know the field going in, albeit that one driver that will emerge victorious from the last chance qualifier. But any final thoughts before we call it a night?
No, I think you about covered it, Blake. We all but have the starting lineup set. We have one more driver still to be determined through the last chance qualifier next week on Sunday evening before the commencement of the FTF Daytona 500. But, if tonight is any indication for what we have to expect next Sunday, and the drivers that have been through it before are all telling us that, it's going to be an exciting race. It might be a little bit of a boring race for the start of it because it is a 500-mile race, 200 laps around the 2.5-mile Triable Speedway of Daytona International, but at the end of it will be worth it once we get there, Blake. And it's going to be a long day for the three of us with our partner in crime, David Schildhouse, when he gets up here to join us in the booth as well. And I'm super excited. It's going to be great. It's been a long time coming to come and do one of these events for FTF, and I'm glad that they put their trust in us to display their product. And hopefully we do them proud with what we've done tonight and what we hopefully will do for them next week on Sunday as well.
No doubt we're thankful to them, and we're thankful to all of you out there who have spent your evening with us. We wouldn't want to do it any other way. Again, we really appreciate all the support. Give our Facebook page a like, and make sure you join the FTF Racing Leagues page to get any updates on what's going to come next week for the great American race here at FTF. It's going to be 500 miles, 200 laps, the first time in the race's history that we'll be going the full 500-mile distance, so it's sure to be something to watch. Well, for Joe Allen, I'm Blake McCandless saying so long from the Daytona International Speedway. It's Kyle Riley and Mike Fallon who took down the wins, and those 38 drivers who locked themselves in. We got 38 more to sort out next week, and we'll see you then. Good night.